Oh, this video is brought to you by Mind Cop, a new non-linear whodunit detective game where your greatest weapon is that big old beautiful brain of yours. A brutal killer is on the loose, you only have 5 days to catch them, and every action you take comes at a time cost, so think before you act and choose your moves carefully. Thankfully, you're not just some regular schmuck detective racing against the clock, you're a Mind Cop. What's a Mind Cop, you ask? Well, it's like a time cop, but instead of Jean-Claude Van Damme doing the splits, you use your Mind Cop abilities to sneak into the heads of suspects, mind surf into a psychedelic, abstract dream space to solve a variety of puzzles and explore their sea of thoughts. This gets you clues and conversation topics to use in your investigation, so you're not doing the splits, you're doing the mind splits. Mind Cop is available now on PS5, Nintendo Switch, and Steam, so head on over to the link in the description and start your investigation today.
I'm
It was
changed.
brave, wasn't it? Yeah, I think we all know.
I'm not changed. I've regressed. I've become worse after that conversation.
Have you ever been in a combo where you just regressed? That's crazy.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Okay, wait.
Apparently, we were muted for slightly.
Are we muted, Eric?
No,
No,
we're
we're
good.
not muted anymore. We're good.
Oh my god! Hello.
Past
What kind of
that.
production
Everyone.
is this?
I know.
This is
very
outrageous.
unprofessional. I'm very sorry.
I have had very little sleep today, guys. I do apologize. Welcome to DevHeads, the podcast focused on the ins, outs, and goings on of game dev with host experience ranging from indie, double to triple A. I'm Jay. All right. I'm joined by my usual wonderful co-hosts, Mikey,
Hello.
Antuna,
Hi, I represent 3 A's and Mikey represents 2, which is better, I think.
and I represent
team.
one eye.
Look.
One
And
eye,
today,
or 3 eyes,
we have-
as I've also heard.
Oh, I guess, yeah. We have a very special guest today. The Mandalorian Gaming. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, thanks. We had such a amazing conversation before this is recorded, and I fear we might not ever capture that energy again.
No, never.
Have you
ever.
fully wiped away all your tears, Mandy, after I
Yeah.
emotionally reached you?
It was a lot, but like I don't politically agree with some of the things you said, but I thought it was brave you'd say that.
I've collected my tears and I'm mailing them to you, Mikey, as recompense, so you can see
I'm
the
gonna
damage.
put him
you've
on a
caused.
mantle. Yeah, I'm
So-
so sorry, everybody. We weren't able to record
Yeah.
that conversation.
So Mandalore, you go by Mandy?
Yeah,
Mando?
that's fine.
Mandy.
For audience reference too, like Mikey and I have known each other for he checked like 7 years now.
Mhm.
Just
Damn.
about.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah,
And you-
Finish our
I'm
Pulsar
actually-
campaign, unfortunately.
I'm actually in a couple of your videos. You use cutaway footage in 2 of them.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's right.
Do you remember that? In one of them, it's like 2 seconds long. In 7 Days to Die, you use some 7 Days to Die footage, and I'm in your party, and in the fucking Pulsar Lost Colony as well.
Yeah, that's
Did
right.
for, there was a
We
gag
got-
about racing in spaceship games.
Yeah, because we had played Pulsar for we got to like the very end of the campaign. We got to like the final planet we needed to find. Like,
And
wow, we
fucking
got
beat
here,
it.
and then we got here. Should we finish it? Probably next session we'll see what's in there.
That was about 4 years ago, I think.
exactly.
Sorry, Tina. What were you going to say?
Oh no, Mandalore, can you give us for our new listeners or viewers that are watching right now, hello, a quick description of what you do? Because I know that you have a pretty popular YouTube channel, and I wanted you to have a moment to tell us about that.
Yeah, I run a YouTube channel where I do reviews and go through basically whatever kind of catches my interest at that moment. So it could be something from 20 years ago. It could be something that came out recently. Sort of just whatever I decide to do that week. But I have a nice little user suggestion document where I track what people are actually emailing me and put them into the rotation. So if it's like, oh, I'm in a mood for FPS game, I could go through what are like FPS things people have submitted, like I want to see a video on. So it's a nice balance of picking out what people want and not doing the bit where it's like, I didn't want to do a review on this game, but everyone kept asking for it on Patreon. Like, it's shit. I don't play this kind of game. Where it's like, I never want to get stuck doing that kind of thing, because you shouldn't approach games that way. It's
Sure.
just silly.
Mhm. And
What
then
did the
you
accent
segue.
mean in there?
It was
Why
a
is there a
jab.
meaning
It was a
behind the
jab at
accent?
me.
No, it sounded nothing like you. I just did.
It was a J jab.
I
I
did-
do sound a little bit like this sometimes. I know. Fucking hell.
Sorry, Tina. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
I'm being
Yeah.
disruptive.
This is why people love us. So you segued your YouTube channel into also being involved in video game development. I wanted you to share a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so I guess my official involvement in things has been going on for a few years, but it's been more consultancy, which some stuff is probably under. I can't remember the names I've used for them. Sometimes I put in names as a bit, and they put them in the credits, which is fun. But other times, just like, oh, it's under NDA. With consultancy, it can range from they send you a build, you sign their forms, you give them feedback, and they go, "Oh, cool, thanks. We'll like take that in consideration." They pay you, you don't hear from them again. Other times, it's more they have a conversation, like we're going to have you talk with, systems designer or whoever, and you back and forth on features. What do you think about this? And then you have more of a conversation those are more productive. And so currently, I'm on the leadership team at Hooded Horse. And there was some weird timing to how that happened, because I know you had Tim on a few months ago. I can't remember when that was. Tim Bender. When was that? May?
It was a hot
He's-
minute ago. It was like one of our
First episodes or second one, right? Third one?
second
Yeah, it was
second
one
or
of the
third
earlier
episode.
ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who for
pleasure to
people
have
who are
him on.
listening,
I'm looking it up
CEO
right
of Hooded
now.
Horse is Tim Bender.
4 months ago.
Right, okay.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'd usually have, but like doing YouTube channel stuff, I wouldn't have. It wouldn't always be like consultancy work in the background, because that's just not consistent enough. That's once in a blue moon, some company reaches out, and sometimes I'd just do. People just ask me and just do it for free on my own time. Like Ultra Kill is the one that probably people know the most about that one. But I just do side work kind of related to what I got my degree in. Just I do contract stuff on the side, because I never want to put all my eggs in one basket for doing YouTube stuff. Because it's like it's such a lot of people on YouTube, I do think, will kind of upplay the I'm poor and dying all the time, because it's like, yeah, there are times where like you get hit with more stuff or video doesn't do well.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't want to be overly reliant on this unstable platform. I still want to make use of my degree in case I say, enough YouTube, back to going to the workforce. And I have something on my resume that's not just this, which I'd like to keep out of most like unrelated fields if I can help it.
I can relate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, basically the same situation.
There's a lot of that, I think, with game development too. Like it can often start as a part-time contractor thing. It was like that for me. I was working in a restaurant when I was doing like my opening narrative design, writing, voiceover stuff. I mean, you got to kind of ease into it, and you got to make sure it's secure, right?
Right, exactly.
Especially now. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I read an experience from a woman that I think she shared it on Twitter, or was it Blue Sky? I don't even remember anymore. But he said she was laid off earlier this year, finally landed a new gig, and then was laid off 2 weeks later, just because of how chaotic the industry is. It just seems like you want to hustle and have a couple different things going on at once rather than just focus on the one, which is unfortunate. I hope it gets better.
It's funny, and by funny I mean sad. You say that, Tina, because I have the same anecdote about a different person. Of like, okay, I'm out. I'm going somewhere else. It sucked to get laid off, but I'm ready to move on. And then you get laid off again. It's just the way the climate is, right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like even the more like quote unquote prestigious institutions in the industry, where it's like, oh, I finally got this job at big prestigious company, and then 2 weeks later, like, oh, they fired like 400 people, or they fired 30 people, or something happened. They just cleaned house. And like, why would they just hire me if they're gonna dump me like a week or two later?
Oh yeah, like that was a huge motivation for me when I first started studying game dev. Was when you're young, you dream of working at your favorite companies, right? And when I was young, that was Blizzard for me. I really wanted to work at Blizzard. But as you start becoming educated on not just the process, but also the work culture and everything like that, you slowly start to realize that those big aspirations might not be the most idyllic for what you want to do, right? I remember a conversation with someone. It was a friend of mine who works at Blizzard or worked at Blizzard, and we were talking about sound design because that was mainly what I did back then, and they were like, "Oh, what do you want to do? Do you want to like be able to make music for an indie game and make the entire soundtrack and do all the sound design and have control over that, or do you want to come to Blizzard and make like Gul'dan's nipple,
Right.
and that's the thing you do, and then you get fired because they're laying people off?" And I'm like, man, for me, game dev is art, and as I think most people nowadays, thank God, think the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it pains me so much to see these absolutely staggeringly talented artists effectively being thrown to the wayside by big companies for slight marginal shifts in their bottom line, so they can have better stuff for their
Yeah, and it's
their
absolutely not
stocks and stuff like
sustainable
that.
either. Like the brain
it's
drain this
horrible.
industry has had is insane.
Yeah.
The silver lining I always try to remind myself of, which might be too optimistic, right? But I like to think of it as a lot of those people, it's awful. The best you can hope for is that they get into a new team where they make more money, because that's a big way that, like many other industries, you end up getting more money is you do have to leave and go somewhere else. People don't usually elect to just pay you more, unfortunately. So the hope there is like that they do find something else, they make more money, because that's how it usually happens, and they get to bring that talent to another team, and that new teams form, right? Indie and AA, lower scale ones, and make their own projects. It's never been easier, broadly and technologically speaking, to make a game. That's the silverest lining that I can find when I try to think about the state it is in now.
Yeah, I mean that's true, because it's happening so much more nowadays too, where you see names where it's like, oh, I thought they're super ingrained in that company. It's like, oh no, they got let go. Like people have been like who have been in the company 20 years, sort of be like, oh, they helped make this big franchise, now they're out. Where it's like a lot of them still have a lot of creative energy in them. It's like they're not going to stop, so it's okay. They're going to go form and work on something else and something new. Something
It's
they
true
have
that
more control over and not get sacked.
Exactly.
Like they did.
Exactly, because you are you are pretty bound, even if you're like one of the most creative people in the industry, worked on some of the biggest, most creative games. You're bound. You're probably bound by a lot of factors. Starting over somewhere else, I mean, again, it sucks, and I'm not downplaying that, but it does hopefully give you another chance to roll the dice and try something else, and hopefully it succeeds and you get to have a little bit of a creative reset. I mean, I'm just speculating here, but like I have to imagine Hideo Kojima had some doors open for him, right, when he moved on.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Yeah, right.
Different.
Yeah,
I
it
just-
happens. It's a
I
special
think-
case, but still, the principle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The phrasing you used there, which was like roll the dice, is an interesting way of phrasing it. Like you can roll the dice and see. But I think it's difficult because I think that dice roll should be reserved for creative risks and seeing if your game does well, rather than like, is this company gonna keep me on? Because and that's seen a lot in the AAA space, unfortunately. Do you see much of that in like the AA space? Like, is that kind of stuff happening in the same kind of?
I think it's
Same kind
happening
of way?
kind of all over. I don't think it's happening quite to the degree, or it might not just be as press. Or it's like, if the amount of people you have at a AA company isn't comparable to the amount like a AAA company could lay off and be completely fine.
Yeah,
So it's like a AA, this is all hypothetical. If a AA company is like, oh, we've laid off half our staff, but that's like 15 people. Where it's like, that's still horrible, but it might not make press headlines like, 400 people laid off from company projected to go up for this quarter. Next quarter, who knows?
bloody
Yep.
hell.
Shit.
Very short
That's
term
very-
thinking.
Yeah. Tina, go ahead.
Well,
Speaking of
yeah, Tina, sorry.
remaking your life,
damn, you stole the transition
how
from
we
me,
are
Tina.
forced
I
to
was just
remake our
about to do.
lives.
I was just about to do that.
remaster, remake. Okay, so we're here to talk about remakes. But before we start, I wanted to quickly let our listeners know what we think is the difference between a remaster and a remake. Because when we were talking off the cuff about what we're going to do on this show, I had remaster in my head, in the back of my head. And remake is a completely different thing.
No.
So where do you draw
Yeah.
the line?
You would morph them into the kind of same thing in your brain, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think gamers.
But to be fair, they're soft, right? They're soft definitions,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the easiest is like a remaster is this is basically the same game that you grew up with, and maybe it's had some polish, there's some new features, there's some cut content, but at its core, you could pick it up, and if you've played that game, you know how to play this game. Most of what was there is in place. Where a remake is, we're going to take this thing, and there's going to be similarities, but we're going to rebuild it from the ground up.
Yeah, I think it really.
Carry on, Mikey.
I think the nuance is what
right.
we mean by remake from the ground up, because most of these games will have the same.
I've got
base
some
and-
examples of that. So
Yeah, okay.
a good example of a remaster of the last year would be Beyond Good and Evil, the 20th anniversary, which is effectively an upscaling of all of its textures, like remastering some of its sound, but effectively the level designs, and its content is all exactly the same. As Mando was saying, it's still touching upon all of that nostalgia, all of those things that you remember, and people would probably get mad if you removed a level because you didn't think it was conducive to the flow of the game. People would be upset within that. But then an example of a remake would be Silent Hill 2, which was done by Bloober, which was recent, which is effectively because of the camera shift going from a forced point perspective to fixed point perspective to an over-shoulder camera, meant that the game had to be completely redesigned from the ground up to make it work within that framework. And they had to add new content to it to make it work. And whether that made it a better game or not is up for debate. But that means they had to redo nearly everything. So that's where the remake comes in rather than remaster.
Okay, so to be cynical, when we bring back a game from the 90s or 80s, and then the female character is different proportionally, that doesn't make it a remaster. It's still a remake.
Well, I don't think that would depend on the stuff around it, right? Like, I think you could do a remaster or a remake and redo the proportions of any character. Whether or not it's remaster, remake, to me at least, would be kind of like we're saying, like remasters are basically smaller and do less. Remakes are bigger and do more, especially in regards to design and graphics. That would be my canned, simple definition. So yeah, like, and of course, the thing we were all thinking about, Eric puts Lara Croft up.
Right.
I wouldn't. That being said, I wouldn't call, what was it, like a 20? When did the Tomb Raider reboot come out? Because I wouldn't call that a remake necessarily.
It's a reboot.
2010s, mid 2010s, I want to say.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
That was more of an actual reboot. That was just like, we're not trying to make the same game. This is just, we're taking the idea and making something completely
how
new.
many fucking names can we use? Bloody hell. Like,
we're going to find all of them by the end of the century.
Remix.
We're going to be drowning in renames.
It speaks to the reliability of brand, man, and IP and stuff. And in that way, like, I feel a little pessimistic about it personally, but at the same time, like, it's an excellent opportunity to take something that was like pure and creative and great about an old experience of an old game and modernize it and introduce it to new audiences and have a new spin on it that's just fun independently. My case in point here is, like, I'm a big Resident Evil fan. I played a little bit of 1 as like a child, never played 2. I played the RE2 remake that came out in 2019 or whatever it was, and I loved it. I felt really invested. I felt scared. It was tense. It looked great. And if I went back and I played RE2, I don't think I would have gotten a similar experience. It's going to be completely different. But if I'd played that when I was a kid, or most people when they played it, kids or not, because nothing had been around like that, they got the same feelings, I think, that I got playing the remake. And I know it's not nostalgia because I never played 2, so it's all genuine.
People mention that a lot, in the sense that RE2 Remake captures the feeling of what it was like to play the original rather than directly representing what it actually was. It captures that vibe, it captures that same kind of sense of suspense, but just framed in a different package. And I think that's really interesting. I guess something I'd love to touch on with you guys is just getting your general temperature on, let's say, remakes, because I'm assuming remasters, like, what are your opinions on them? Do you like them, or do you think they're a bit redundant?
It kind of depends. Like, it's funny you mentioned that, for a remaster, you probably want to remove a level. And my mind went right to the Crisis remaster for Crisis 1. Because there was a level on it where you would control a airship and you'd chase, like, the aliens out of the jungle for a bit. And the controls on it were fucking awful. Like, even on PC, like, mouse and keyboard, controlling this airship and doing this chase was so terrible. It was this blocker for a lot of people. And so for the remaster, they just completely axed that part out. Like, it wasn't necessarily long. It was like maybe only a few minutes section too. So they went, okay, like that's not even, there's not much value there. It's breaking the flow. People didn't like it. Let's just cut that out. I guess with remasters, I'm more okay with them if they keep the original thing accessible and they don't throw the keys away to the old one, accessing it like basically legally. Like with the Homeworld remaster that Gearbox put out. Like, if you get that, you still get Homeworld 1 and 2, the classic games with it. So even if you don't like the remaster's changes, they said, oh, the original ones are right here bundled with it, and you can play those too. And then you had something like Warcraft 3 Reforged, where that went and they that updated all the old versions. People had mods working forever, got canned. And now the nostalgic experience you bring back is having a computer in the 90s that wasn't able to play Warcraft 3 because you didn't have a good enough video card.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there hammering at the keyboard wanting your game to play.
Yeah, which is interesting because I didn't check out the Warcraft 3 one, but I played the StarCraft 1, what I guess would be a remaster, and I really appreciated that you could flip between the two.
Oh yeah, the visuals on it. Yeah, it's cool.
The Halo MCC, on the other hand, like, I mean, I never used the new visuals for any of the Halo stuff.
Oh God,
it just,
no.
Yeah, just too is the word greebly? Do we know that term?
Extremely.
Greebly. Yeah.
I know greebly in model making, but not in using.
So it's like,
that's what we mean. Yeah.
Yeah, for context, for greebling, for anyone audience, it's when you have like a model, like a miniature for a movie, to make it look to scale, they go like, oh, to make this look bigger, add little bits on it, like a spaceship, like add little shapes sticking out or little like wires, like add little things to make it look bigger to scale. So in like in the Halo and the MCC collection for Halo 1, the Forerunners, which are like these ancient aliens, they had these big monolithic structures. They're super flat looking. There's not much on them, and it was kind of ominous because it's like they're so advanced, but like there's not much on these. Like it's dark in here. The remaster made them super bright, and they covered all the surfaces that were flat before with like little wires and little greebles. Just like this adds detail to it. But by adding that detail, they took away from the atmosphere of it and the intent of like what those levels are supposed to feel like.
It's like it takes away from the detail, right? Because you go from asking those questions to just being like, oh, that is a model with stuff on it. That is.
Yeah.
And it works in film, right? Because it's but do you think it's the knowledge of the original and then it being added that makes it so kind of egregious? Would you have the same opinion of those monoliths if the original had the same amount of greeblies? Like, it's
I
an
don't
interesting
know, because
question.
You do have people who have like gone through the MCC and they've heard like, oh, it's bad. Like, back in the day, it's weird to think MCC is like so as old as it is now. Because I always think that's a recent thing. I always think that's a recent thing that came out. But like, it was pretty busted when it first came out. And they go, oh no, like play Halo 1, and they go through it and it had better shaders on like the metal on Master Chief's armor, like the surfaces. There were things about original CE that looked better than launch MCC. So people would go through that, and even with like those little touches are a little better, they'd go through like, oh wow, the atmosphere is completely different here. Like fighting the flood, like coming out of these dark black areas feels so different than when they're coming out of like a Bionicle playset, basically.
I think I have a good image here, by the way. Let me try to pull it out. Eric, I'm going to send it to you. Continue, Mandy.
Bionicle playset was a beautiful way of phrasing that.
Well, I mean, Halo 5 added Bionicles eventually, so it was how it went.
I think that's what's interesting about remakes, right? I have to believe that a remake is being worked on because there's an opportunity to share an exciting or fun experience with a new audience. You're not necessarily making it for the core audience that already played it, right? Like that's a perk to like be able to play. That's not your main driver, I wouldn't imagine, right? As a developer,
yeah,
you want to introduce a new audience, right? Yeah,
but in order to be popular enough,
yeah,
sorry, Tina, carry on.
Yeah, like you know that there was love for this thing that you're working on. You want to introduce it to a new audience, and that's why we're making a remake. But at the same time, you may not all be the same group of people that brought the original to light. So I think there's a lot of onus on the developers making a remake to care about the craft that went into the original, right? Like even down to like the lighting detail in certain levels. Like I think it's important that you understand the nuance. And there's maybe like something you can't really contextualize easily, like a vibe or a feeling that you had, that you want to make sure you don't pull that away. And I think that developers that spend that amount of care and effort into understanding all of those things is what makes a remake great. But that said, when we're talking about this Halo example, you know, when a AAA game is being given to a AAA studio, I just think that responsibility is a lot harder to champion across, like, I don't know, how, like 300 people, 400 people,
multiple
right?
teams.
It's
Yeah.
also
Eric, pull the
really-
picture up, by the way, because before you continue, Jay, there's a picture that was just on screen I wanted to show. I think this illustrates pretty well what Mandy was talking about, especially with the Forerunner infrastructure. The old style is like, I guess, brutalist, you would say, clean and cementy and mysterious. You can also see the Elite design, I think, was better. Like it looked cleaner. And this isn't even like a thing that you only see in remasters or remasters and remakes. I feel like you could see the same thing in later Halo games, right? Like when I look at that Elite, some of the Elites and maybe like 3 or 4, I actually preferred the visual design of the Elites in Halo 1 or even Halo Infinite, where it was less busy and noisy.
Yeah.
But you could see in that picture more ridges, more lines, almost too much detail that loses
That's what I
the
mean.
style.
Panels on the walls.
By the lighting too, right? It's just the Elite look on the left in the original, for people that are listening and can't see this. You know, there isn't a lot of lighting in the foreground. And you see just the bright blue little detail on the head of the Elite, and it just looks so menacing because you see this giant mass around it, and you're like, oh my god, this is a big monster.
Yeah, this is a
right?
great clip right here with the difference, like how that entryway feels.
Mm-hmm.
And also where your focus is drawn. I talk a lot about in my episodes about framing and how as a level designer it is your responsibility to draw the eye through like chiaroscuro, the extreme difference between light and dark, using lighting, using the placement of your assets.
Mm-hmm.
And that door in the first clip, your eye is immediately drawn to your point of progression, where you need to go. It invites questions, but when you have so many greeblies and so much detail, this is the type of stuff that requires us to have yellow paint. So, you know, so this is an issue. Like I made an episode on it, which is, as a level designer, games getting prettier and being able to process more and more of this visual fidelity does make it harder to naturally navigate.
And the approach to a remaster like this is tricky too, because it's like if you hear remaster, there's usually some implication that something's going to look prettier graphically.
Yeah.
But you could sometimes, especially across a big team, you start approaching it in the same way some people might approach, like, as an example, like I want to say like texture mods for the Elder Scrolls games. Like the biggest texture mods for Oblivion are usually made by a very small group of people. Yeah. So going, okay, we're going to have consistency across all these things we're doing. We don't want it to look out of place. And in this, you have dozens of artists. And you're saying, okay, take this and upscale it and add more detail. And everyone does that individually. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes together like this, it looks busy because it's like, okay, I'm not really focused on like where I'm looking the level. The Elite's kind of clashing like against the colors of it where it didn't before. Because they're not really looking at it as a whole. They're taking all these parts and going, okay, add more detail, and they're doing like an environmental pass eventually. But it's not as cohesive before. Like where you had something that stuck out easier, unless you have a really tight vision and a smaller team on it, like Night Dive does, which people love their remasters for the most part, because they're very attentive about all those things. Doing it on this scale is just so much harder to organize.
Yeah.
I do want to play a little bit of devil's advocate here for the Halo example that we've been looking at. So the first Halo was still in that era where you were caught up in which console has the better graphics. Which one looks the coolest, right? Like that's not something...
we stopped doing that?
I think so, right?
No, you're right. We did. Yeah. Depending
not
on your
as-
age, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
no, you're completely right though. It's not nearly
Yeah.
as dramatic now as it used to be, where it
yeah,
was like
yeah.
constantly
10-year-olds,
everywhere.
are playing Minecraft. They don't care about fidelity as much in games right now. But yeah, when we were growing up, it was all about like which one looks the crispiest or the cleanest or has the craziest stuff on screen at once, right? And I wonder if the group that brought this remaster to light had that stress of, okay, now make Halo look like it belongs on the modern console
In this
Yeah.
generation.
and push
yeah.
the limits,
Big
right?
time.
And I don't.
Yeah, that kind of direction can be. Yeah,
And do that
difficult. Go ahead.
without altering the direct flow of the level or doing anything too dramatic.
The controls,
because then you'll piss
yeah.
people off, right?
Yeah.
It's
That's
such a tall
it's an
order.
interesting debate,
It's-
though, right?
It is, and I think going back to something you said earlier about them trying to emulate the feeling or what it felt like. Something Yahtzee said on the Windbreaker podcast when we were discussing the Silent Hill 2 remake, he repeatedly said something that I didn't directly agree with, which was, oh, it's easy to copy someone else's homework. So in reference
Oh,
to,
that's-
well, it's easy for them to do stuff. And I actually think it's incredibly difficult because people will have such a nostalgic driven preconceived idea of exactly what that game felt like to play back in the early 2000s, and redoing that in the exact same style is difficult by itself, but now frame it in a completely different way with a completely different camera, using different lighting systems, different ways to deliver narrative, and still try and capture that feeling. As so hard. And I commend these devs because, in my video on Silent Hill 2, I didn't directly feel, because of the change of camera, that the devs did fully capture the same feeling the original had. I think it created a really cool new one. But I don't think they fully succeeded in that. And I don't think that's through any lack of skill. I just think it's practically impossible to fully capture it unless you directly copy assets and just upscale in a remaster. It's so difficult.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I mean, think
You
about.
could. Go ahead,
Mikey.
You could nail. I'm thinking because people are talking about in the chat here too. System Shock, right?
That's a good
really
example,
good
yeah.
remake. Yeah, awesome. Visual style, vibe, atmosphere, all maintained. I would argue. I only played like a teensy bit of the original System Shock. Mandy, you know better than me, I think, because you're more familiar with it. But like, I'd argue they did great on all that. But man, I really wish they reworked some of the level design because I did have to stop playing at a certain point because I just got stuck and I put it down and I just didn't get back to it. So even if you nail one of those aspects, which, as you say, Jay, is like super difficult because the expectation's so high, you could easily just not forgo, but just like not get it right with another aspect, like with some of the design. Like in my opinion, that's a game where I would have liked if it were a little less mazy, but also the maziness is like a part of its identity. It's even a part of the narrative a little bit. You learn, at least in the remake, you do from one of the logs. So it's a really super tough balance to strike, and it's not easy to just copy the homework. I agree.
That's a perfect example. Like thinking, because they basically, if you think about Night Dive's history, they're mainly doing remasters. I think System Shock, this was their first outright remakes. They had like the crowdfunding campaign for it. This is the first time they've went, okay, we're going to basically take this idea and start over. Where the level design, from what I've played of it too, because I also need to finish it since they had their big patch a few months ago, the level design is, from what I played, 1-to-1 to the 94 game, which is kind of insane to do nowadays. But it's like when we're talking about visual fidelity and guiding your eyes and stuff like that, when you'd come into a room and then System Shock, sometimes they'd be mean and hide an item. But typically, it was easy to kind of pick things out in the environment. That's an item. I'm going to grab that. Simple. When they added all these like items around as like detail and clutter, it's like, yeah, it makes the room look more real. It makes it feel more alive, but it makes it harder to like play the game. It's harder to get ammo. It's harder to pick out what you should be picking out in a room because they've added all this fidelity to it. And they've also kept that old school level design to it. So the result is, like you said, you didn't play that much of it, but navigating it is a lot harder than the 90s game because it's like, okay, this area looks kind of similar. It's a little greebly when you're going through it. And also they're influenced by System Shock 2, where they kind of want to go, okay, let's have more of that horror atmosphere that came in this later game. It's almost like a System Shock 1.5, where it has like these elements from these two games, because they have that looking back perspective on it, where it's okay, let's add more of these elements that made the later game good. And so it's kind of this merger between them, which is really interesting, because I think if anyone other than Night Dive had done that remake, they probably would have drastically changed the level design, probably in like not like as far down as Doom 2016, but probably be more in that kind of realm, where it's okay, we took the theme of you're trapped in a space station and you're trying to get out and escape this thing, and everything else would have been completely different. But they wanted to have something that was almost like in the idea of, let's remaster this game and bring it to like a modern audience, modern like combat controls, but we also want to be faithful to the fans, so let's keep how mazy the environment was. Let's have all these items. Like, oh, like people like today like upgrades. Let's like throw an upgrade system in here. So it's this kind of a mess in some regards, but it's really interesting kind of looking at their thought process going through making that.
Yeah. It's I want to show another good example of this. And this is a game that hasn't gotten a remake, and I feel like should get a remake, but I'm not sure like what it would be. But I think it can solve at least one of these problems. I'm gonna stream it here. I'll stop being.
While you're pulling that up, I wanted to read that Snake in the Garden gave €2. Hello, thank you for that. And she says System Shock 2023 captured feeling of the original.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. Okay, you're gonna recognize this immediately, Mandy.
Oh man,
I think you know where I'm going with this. I'm streaming now, Eric. Should be up in a second.
Oh god.
Yeah,
so,
you know where I'm at?
Yeah.
You know where I'm at?
Yeah.
Can you provide some narrative for our
Yes,
listeners?
Absolutely. This is Marathon 1, and Marathon is the FPS that came before Halo. Made by Bungie. First one came out in 1994. Groundbreaking FPS. Did so many innovative things. Mandy does a bunch of great videos about it. Dual wielding, reloading without a reload button, narrative in an FPS game in the early 90s, like possibly the first FPS game with narrative, like I feel like, or genuine narrative. But when it comes to some of the level design, as you can see right now, it can be very, very maze-like. And this level that I'm showing right now, Colony Ship for Sale Cheap, is
the worst puzzle in the game. Quote unquote puzzle.
I DM'd you in June or July, I think, and I was like, "Hey, I'm on the level," and I had this plan of like, let me try to like figure it out. How bad could it be? I couldn't remember how bad it was, but I remember you said it was bad in your video, and I did all this research, and I saw like this is the part where a lot of people stop, and it is, and I can't fucking get past this part. And speaking from a design perspective, like this is a really critical moment, right? A player arriving at a space in a level and looking at it and going like, I really don't know what to do, and I'm at the point where I just want to put it down. That's that's a danger even, right?
Oh, yeah.
You push people into the point of getting frustrated. And one of the cool things about remakes that we can have an opportunity for is to try again, right? Now, Marathon, like I'm not sure what it would look like in regards to a remake of like how do we capture the feeling of what it was like to play Marathon in 1994, because it set the foundation for so many FPS conventions to follow, like including what you see in Halo. But it would be an opportunity to at least make some of these parts a little better, and it would kind of go beyond the scope of a remaster. Because again, like I mean, this is the kind of stuff that can really stop a playthrough.
Well, to add to how hellish this debate is, this is the I think this is the LF1 port that they put on Steam. Yeah, it definitely is.
With community port, yeah.
So long ago, they actually had it where when you got to this, they go, okay, actually, they altered the puzzle a bit. They made it so...
Oh, really?
I don't even want to say it's a puzzle because you're just lifting the switches and trying to get them
That's enough so you can run up it.
Yeah. For reference,
you're get in there.
You're trying to make a staircase by lifting up those platforms, but this game doesn't have jumping. You basically can run through the air towards an incline, and if you're high enough, the game goes, okay, and you get to like climb up it. So you're having to build a staircase, and the buttons are located in different parts of the map. And so you're having to like run and raise it up a little bit, raise it down a little bit, and then you have to run down and test it to make sure you can actually climb up it. So it's horrible for you can see all the steps.
Where's the point of progression? Awful. When you look at this room, So like
of
this is
course
my
there are
level
7
designer brain's
steps.
going.
There are 7 steps.
Of course there are 7 steps. God damn it.
Bungie, dude.
Awful.
Did you not know that
Awful.
before? I didn't realize.
No, I
that.
just noticed that now.
I
Fucking
can't
terrible.
tell that there are 7 steps because I can't see because I can't jump. I have to shoot my grenade launcher at that point. It took me like an hour to figure out. I have to hit this switch and this switch.
And where are
those
you
two
trying
move.
to get to, like visually?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
If you look to the left, I
Okay.
think you're supposed to see that you're climbing up to that.
There?
Okay, and
Yeah.
and is the player
Okay.
meant to? So I'm assuming where you're stood right now is probably the first port you come to. As someone who hasn't played Marathon, it's the first
Is
port you
this?
come to
This
see
might not
the.
be. Each
puzzle.
port only raises. There's a few viewing areas. Each one can
Yeah,
only
okay.
raise, I think, 2 stairs.
So are
So you
those
have to
opposite
find them
areas?
all.
Are they raising?
Yeah.
Are they areas? They're like windows to look out. Okay.
And they're not like you walk right over to them. You walk throughout the level to get to them. They're a trek to get to.
I don't even know how to get into here. That's part of what I was stuck at here was I thought, I need to make these 3 interactions. I got to do something that lets me into the room.
It looks like
I was
you get
trying to
into there
line
in
the 3
bottom
up.
right.
Right, but
Yeah, that looks like an entry point. Yeah.
yeah, but going back to the port thing, at one
Hmm.
point they actually had it to where you would like press the buttons and they would automatically raise to the correct level, and that was it. So it's you just go to the area, you press the button, it raises up, and so the thing they took away the puzzle and was just okay, go to the correct area, you hit the button, and then you progress through the level. Because they said, this is just horrible, this is just shitty backtracking, and everyone hates this. And there was enough of an outcry that they put it back. So said,
really?
no, like, yeah. Because it was, because the sentiment was, like this is like a rite of passage. Like, it's shitty, but it's sort of like a
man,
bonding. It's like it's
yeah,
a bonding
I learned
thing for
this.
Marathon.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
how I
learned this
feel.
and I
about
want it
that.
there again.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, it's like this thing of I had to do this in the original when I was younger. It took me 5 hours to figure it out. Now I know how to do it, so I want to come back to the remaster and absolutely stomp this puzzle because I know what I'm doing.
Right.
But then
And
they
let
take
the
that
young
from
people
you.
suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the
It's still
same time, it's like we're
gatekeeping,
talking
so-
about this level because it has like this really shit backtracking puzzle, and from the outside, that's really funny and interesting to hear about. And it's like, okay, we just made it so you go through it, you hit the buttons, and there would be not much noteworthy about this level anymore.
I do think that there is a difference between like a grueling, you gotta get this grind experience versus you literally can't solve this without help from someone or something.
Wiki games, I call them. Games where
Wiki
you have to
didn't
tab out.
exist in '94, right? Think of how many gamers stopped here. And this is like this is something that it's just a shame, is I guess what I'm getting at. And it's not an objective thing, but subjectively, most would agree that like this is a thing you gotta avoid in design.
Yeah.
Eric, I'm gonna take the stream down now. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Also think about how many people. Think about how many people bought strategy guides just because
Yeah,
of this.
whole market
this
for
one of
this kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
All those
Some of these
adventure
things
games.
were done intentionally to sell books.
Do you,
So,
I mean, you guys probably don't, but do you remember when Nintendo had a hotline?
Oh,
Yeah.
you could call it up.
Yeah.
Help! How Metroid crawl, and then he'd pay a certain amount per minute.
Yeah.
He'd tell you how to do it.
You're like, where's the hidden flute for Mario?
Mario on a flute. Interesting.
Anything else we could help you with? Take your time. We'll wait. Take as long as you need to on our line.
Yeah, right.
Kids don't know better. They're like,
Yeah.
No, they just gotta get Mario the flute.
But going back to, I guess it'll be an accessibility question, and going back to System Shock, it's like even in '94 they had that magical difficulty system where you could choose between the numbers for like combat, puzzles, narrative. Where it's like, if you choose minimum narrative, it's like it basically just throws an objective out there, and you go, okay, go to the next spot. Where it's okay, I really want to do harder combat, but I'm not good at puzzles, so you knock that down. Most of the puzzles are easier. They solve themselves if you knock it down. So if Marathon, like this version, had that, like, knock the puzzle thing down. So I want Colony Ship for Sale cheap I want that to solve itself and not deal with it. Where it's like, I know people, it's like if people want to be hardcore about it and go, oh no, you have to play it on, original 90s mode. And it's like all power to them. But I think having those options, it's like, it's fine. It's video games. it's fine to have it as an
variable
option.
difficulty is so, from an accessibility standpoint, it doesn't do any damage to the core experience because at a baseline or normal mode, the devs can basically mold it to be the experience they think is desirable to the widest margin of players. And like you said, somebody really likes combat, but doesn't particularly enjoy the puzzles because of their difficulty. Their brain isn't really wired that way. They don't want to do that. They can choose to increase the difficulty of combat, but reduce the difficulty of puzzles. And their experience of that game has just been elevated because they have that option, and the same in reverse. And that's beautiful. I think it should be done in more games, including Dark Souls. Get fucked, people in chat.
so
you will not survive the winter.
That was a random shot in the wind.
You will not survive the winter.
It's not too random. The difficulty of Dark Souls and fucking Elden Ring and Bloodborne and all them is a real big nerd debate, right? So if I'm hearing you right, Jay, it feels like there should be an option to make a.
All right, I don't want to get stuck on this topic too much because it is.
That reminds me
The
of
difficulty is based on your builds. Just experiment around, and you'll find the easy mode.
It is.
That's the secret of the Souls games: is you find the I win build.
But like I'll finish my thought before you come with what you've got, Tina. Like basically just Dark Souls is built as a difficult experience that has variable difficulty based on your build, like Mandy just said. And that's beautiful. But I am a big proponent of accessibility features for people with disabilities, or people who just don't want that kind of experience, but want to experience the narrative, which is a huge aspect of Souls. There is no harm so Celeste is the perfect example. Celeste is an extremely difficult game that is based on pinpoint precision platforming. Wow, a lot of P's. But they have an accessibility feature that is variable to allow you to not take any... it doesn't kill you when you go into kill zones, or you have infinite jumps. And that does not ruin the experience. The game is still insanely difficult and challenging, but people who just want to experience the narrative or just want to go through in a more casual setting, they have the ability to do that. I think a lot of people gatekeep Souls because it has this narrative of being extremely difficult. By doing that, we are stopping a huge amount of players being able to access this wonderful narrative and this wonderful world, because there isn't that option to be able to circumvent some of that difficulty. Thank God for mods that can do that, but I think it should be baked into the game itself. I'm not asking for an easy mode, but variable accessibility features should be in every game. Period. They're just very expensive to make, so it's a
podcast on that, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could.
What's that?
White Sign Soapstone, baby. Summon the gaming elite.
Oh yeah,
what's that
dude,
mean? I don't know what that means.
Well, in Souls games, Elden Ring, you could
summon people.
Yeah, you could summon people.
Sorry.
You have help with the boss. The boys are here to handle it. Like
yeah, but then go into like, okay, well now we need to farm like resources. Which ones are the Souls games where you have to farm resources? Most of them. Bloodborne.
Well, do you mean the Souls themselves? You mean like humanity for?
Oh yeah, like humanity and the resources you need to be able to access the multiplayer and stuff like that. Because I'm a huge Souls multiplayer nerd. Like I would just go and put my soapstone down to help people with early bosses and stuff, because you just it's such a rewarding. Souls fun. Multiplayer is some of the best and worst stuff. Like the way you access it is so jank and weird. But it's so rewarding to play. There's so many different ways to make that game easier. You're right, Mandy, but
I know what you mean though. It's like people argue for
the
the systems. Oh, go ahead, Mikey.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I did the Elden Ring co-op mod, and I got further in the game, I think, because of it. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed having that uninterrupted co-op, and I hope they consider it for their future games. That was all.
People are saying in chat like, "Oh, go and farm." No, you're completely right. For 99% of players, naturally playing the game and accessing the leveling systems and stuff like that, and altering your build to suit your playstyle is the variable difficulty system. You're completely right. But I'm talking about the small percentage of people who do matter. If you're in chat and you say they don't, I'm fucking banning you. They do matter. These people who cannot access that kind of system because of a disability or something that's happening in their lives. Those people deserve to play the game too and experience the narrative. It doesn't hurt anyone to have an accessibility feature that makes the game easier. for those people, as long as the game, just like Celeste, warns you that you are effectively taking away and ruining the core experience by doing this. But if you need it, it's there. Like that.
It's
Even
it's
Pathologic 2
ultimately-
added that, and that was pretty try hard a game. But later on, they did add a system that said, "Hey, this is not how we intended it. You're like, this is not how we wanted you to do it. But if you do want to, you could tone down like 30 different sliders. Like, it was crazy how much you could actually customize Pathologic 2.
There was a controversy, a slight controversy with Celeste. When they did that and you accessed this mode, it originally disabled all of the achievements. But then there was a big uproar about that, so they added it back. But I actually think that's kind of a good idea of like, okay, let's say they add an accessibility feature into Souls that makes it so you take like half damage or something, or you take no damage at all and you're just there for the narrative. There should be an achievement attached to doing it without those modes. You completed Dark Souls in the original format.
I mean,
and then,
it is called an achievement. Like, it's fair. It's just a little.
I
it's a
agree.
little digital trophy. It doesn't matter that much. Well,
exactly.
it doesn't matter that much. But some people get really into trophy.
Some people
hunting,
get
where it's-
really into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get
I-
gatekeeping for the sake of gatekeeping. I think you're right, Jay. That's
People like-
especially if
people
it's
like-
for like
I
a
get it, you know.
campaign or it's not like there's no competitive edge that you're gaining over other people. You know, like
It's the difficulty. It's like Dark Souls is known for how difficult it is.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that people latch onto that. I'm one of those people. I'm incredibly proud when I beat, one of the Souls games or it's DLC or I do it on a weird build. I remember trying to do a Dark Souls free no-hit run and being incredibly proud of how far I got. Right? I understand how people get latched onto that, but to gatekeep those kind of experiences from marginalized groups for the sake of just feeling like you're cool because you beat a game, and oh no, if somebody else got to play this game in an easier setting than me, that it doesn't devalue your achievement, right?
Yeah.
I think I mostly agree with you. Yeah, I at the same time, I ultimately get it. Like, it's up to the developer. It does take time and resources to say, all right, well, we have to expose all these sliders to players, and we have to keep it up to a certain quality level. It's one of those things where, like, I would encourage devs to do it. Like, I think that it's a good thing to have. Like, what if you were born with a disorder where, like, you're missing fingers and you want to play? What if you're blown up and you're missing fingers? Like, even physical disabilities like that are like severely limiting and mean, like, am I going to get to enjoy the game or not?
It's
am
even
I going to get to go
games,
this far?
right?
It's super important, but at the same time, I get it from the dev perspective. If they say, well, like, that's time and money that, like, we want to put somewhere else, I kind of have to shrug and say, okay, well, I guess I have to accept that. The thing that I
can
agree
agree
with you fully on, though, is when gamers do the gatekeeping and say, like, well, don't bother playing Dark Souls if you're gonna have a mod that makes it easier. That's just silliness. Like, people can enjoy games however they want. If you make a judgment about whether you're a real gamer of Dark Souls, if you do this and this, you're a little too in the weeds with your opinions at that point.
That's the thing with Souls games in particular. Like, I'd imagine most of the defense of it comes with how many, like, even if they're not Souls games, but everyone has so many systems and, like, summons and magic, and there's so many different builds you can make where it's like you can do something that makes things easier, and like, oh yeah, the difficulty is built into all these systems you engage with, and reading through items and figuring out these combinations to get through the bosses. But then it's like when you start getting into, like, the Dark Souls, the PvP scene, or, like, you start getting into the fan base, there's levels to it. It's not just, oh, you want easy mode, fuck off. It's you use the Drake sword. What's wrong with you? Like, it starts moving up. Like, you're wearing Havels. What's wrong with you? And then it's like, unless it gets to where you're in your underwear, the level one, like, because it's like, it's such the whole culture of it's built around, like, how sick can you be playing this game? And there's, like, it keeps escalating up, where it's like you play a thing how you want.
Yeah.
But
I used to be a gatekeeper myself. I used to be like, I'll never use the AWP in Counter-Strike. Never, ever. It's too good. I'll use the Scout like a cool and good gamer. But in retrospect, like, that was just kind of juvenile, right? Like, it's people can.
It's
a competitive game, right?
Of
yeah,
the
I mean,
sense of,
oh, go ahead.
No, go for it. Your thought is on Counter-Strike, so go for it.
No. My thought was, my anecdote for Dark Souls multiplayer was going into Sun's Fortress and cosplaying the Iron Golem and windblading people off the top of it. You go to Enter Londo and windblade people off the edge.
You're a griefer.
Well,
Greek.
I love it.
Dark Souls for me was
I
also
know.
like most of my PvP was going I'm gonna go and be in Park Ranger. I can't remember what the location's slipping my
Park
brain.
Ranger.
Yeah, it's right by the wolf. Damn, what is the park called? But you could you go to the cat and you could be a forest protector or whatever, and you gank people coming to the woods. Like protect the woods. It's just being a park ranger. And so I did read shift into a barrel and I slide around the woods as a bush. I'd pop out and get people for coming into my
Amazing.
parklands. Yeah, I was a big old yogi playing the game, but it's there was so much fun in that where it's well, someone had their humanity on. It's they had summons, maybe they were trying to do the boss easier. They just wanted to summon some things, go to the boss, but I was there, and this is my part.
It's a
and they're
balancing
causing forest
feature, right?
fires. Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to go back to the accessibility topic for a little bit. Bookworm776 donated $5 and says, I have severe migraines, and I'm really limited on what games I can play because of sensory issues. Accessibility is super important.
Yeah,
And I wanted to add on top of that. There's some games that I unfortunately can't play right now just because of my lifestyle, right? I can't afford to play a game and then get to a save that's triggered in script because I have a little toddler running around, right? And it would be irresponsible of me to keep playing. So sometimes I give up on long-winded story-driven games because I just can't afford to play them right now unless the kid's, out for the count.
Yeah.
It expands into going back to what you said as well, Mikey, which was the sense of sometimes you can see why devs don't do it. I completely agree within a indie or AA setting where funds are limited, manpower is limited. But when we're getting into the AAA space, Tina, this it works. You worked on the game.
Okay.
I have a friend who a very close friend of mine, and she has one hand. She was born with one hand, and she plays controller games in a very, very interesting and unique way. And she can access most games that have button remapping because she has to do them in a certain way.
Yeah.
And she cannot play. She loves story-driven RPGs. And she could not access. I'm not sure if it's been added now or added in the sequel, but the original God of War and The Witcher 3 on consoles did not have button remapping, which meant
You're talking
she could not play
PS2 God of War. Just to clarify.
The
reboot.
Gotcha.
Remake.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
Got it.
remake
Yeah.
reboots. Yeah. Or
2017 God of War, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Norse,
Understood.
Norse,
Carry on.
Norse,
Yeah.
Dad of War. She
Dad of
couldn't
War.
play these games at all,
Or 2018.
and through a simple thing that is included in most games, which is button remapping. I believe the PC versions have them by default, but the idea is, we don't need to add them in console because everyone's going to be using the same controls. In these AAA games, my friend could not play these games whatsoever because there wasn't button remapping. And I think with AAA games, these are things that should be done because you are, making it so a lot of people can't experience these wonderful stories because of the disability they have because of something as simple as button remapping. I'm not sure if the Ragnarok had button remapping on console. I know it was originally the original one, but it's small things like that. When you have the resources to do those things, it's good to think about them. I understand why they go under the radar because it is, in the grand scheme of things, a small percentage of players, and having remappable buttons put on the back of your on the box isn't going to sell more copies, right? Well, it will in a small degree, but I understand it. It's the same with UI. You can't put "we have stellar UI" on the back of the box. It's how much more content do you have? But I think as developers, it's our duty to think about these things and to make sure that our games can be accessed by the people who deserve to play them.
So God of War Ragnarok did introduce a lot of accessibility options.
Good.
Funny
That's
enough,
awesome.
it landed on the shoulders of a wonderful woman named Mila who ran the UI team. And I thought it was natural that UI kind of championed the accessibility features because
100%.
at the crux of a lot of these is UI work, right? And no, it was really cool to see that she was promoting the fact that we should be working on these features. And I had the opportunity to help scope them, and there was a lot that was slated to be done, but because of time and the limited power of human beings and what we can do, we scaled the original plans back a little bit. But I think what was there, it was pretty significant. Will
That's so
send
lovely to hear.
Eric a link, and then I can have him share that with the chat. Or actually, I could share it with the chat. I'll share it with the chat right now.
Eric's got a video on currently, which seems to be on accessibility in Ragnarok. It's so wonderful to see, because these conversations I were having was before Ragnarok came out, and I wasn't being like, hey, gotcha. Like it was I wonder what you guys did with Ragnarok, because as someone who is able-bodied, I don't necessarily need these to access these features in these games. So I've played through Ragnarok and didn't, necessarily look out for them. So it is so wonderful to see that, AAA games are diverting resources to this stuff, because it does matter a lot.
Yeah, I mean, playing any AAA game now, it's like seeing the amount of menus that pop up now for like, are you colorblind, or like you go through the checklist of stuff. It's like that's so different compared to even like 5 years ago.
Yep.
Oh yeah. As someone who is colorblind, it is really rewarding, right? Especially having the variable of the spectrum of people kind of get lumped into different categories of colorblindness. So I have protapinopia.
With all of this said, I do think that you guys all raise a great point that we're not making directly, but I think it is that if a remake is going to be made in the future, it should include accessibility features.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Because that's the goal, right? You going back to your original point, you want to find a game that is popular enough that is going to, get people interested in it. But in a way, it's being made in a way to get new audiences into a thing that they wouldn't have accessible. Silent Hill 2. Most people aren't going back to play Silent Hill 2 on the PS2, right? Most people don't have a PS2 anymore and are going to have to source it and spend however much money to get a copy, right? Or emulate it, which, is accessible, but a lot of people don't know how to do it and are intimidated by it. So it's a way how we can get new people into it and tell that story. And accessibility, be that through adding features that make it accessible for people who aren't able-bodied, or adding colorblind modes and stuff like that, is a way of allowing people to experience it, so it is all about accessibility, just in different degrees.
I just wanted to share one funny anecdote that I had for God of War. So God of War 2018, one of the lead combat designers, Mikee, that I'm friends with, he asked me if I had fun playing it. And I told him that because I come from shooters, I play a lot of shooters. I told him I use the axe a lot, the one that like just comes back to you.
Leviathan
you throw
axe,
it, it comes back. And he said that he made it for players like me, so we would get into the game more. So he made it with like shooter fans in mind, and I just thought that was great.
That's so
smart.
Cool.
Yeah, I've had that before in a lot of games. You find a class or an ability or a gun, and you're like, "This is for me. This is mine." They had me pegged. Is that the phrase? They had me pegged? I don't actually know.
I think that phrase it is that, but I think it's morphed.
Right? Yeah, that's why I
over the time.
So looping back to remakes, I guess we could get to because I know Mikey at the beginning you were saying like I am a little disillusioned by them, which I think we're in the same camp, especially because you come from the modding scene too. It's like seeing what people have out there. Like Silent Hill 2 has something. They had like the HD edition that came out and everyone hated it, but there is a mod for Silent Hill 2 called the Enhanced Edition for PC, which is like it's basically a fan-made remaster. The problem is you have to know it exists. You have to know, especially nowadays, like people growing up, their computer knowledge is like nosediving. If you weren't like that golden zone, it's like, oh, I grew up where like I knew what computers were, like when they weren't too complicated, and then it goes back down to now I grew up when computers were too simple. It's like you have to know like, oh, there's this mod for Silent Hill 2 that makes it play better and it looks better. You have to know about that. You have to have a PC that does it. You have to have the hardware. You have to have the know-how.
Speaking of that topic, I have something to add to that. World of Warcraft. I downloaded WoW Classic and I didn't realize how much I took UI for granted, and so I played that game.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had to download the mod to help me figure out what my objectives were.
We've come a long
it's-
way with
it's great.
UI design.
Yeah.
It's
As-
definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah, retail. Because we spoke about this WoW topic a little bit in our meetings, not on live, but I'm a huge World of Warcraft nerd. Been playing for literally over half my life, and the UI is such an interesting aspect to it because whenever I get the game up again, I have to go get a suite of, I think it's about 12 mods, like they call them add-ons in game, through CurseForge. Big ups CurseForge. Not sponsored, just love it. And
CurseForge, respond to my DMs. They haven't gotten back yet. I reached
the
out.
motherfuckers. But like you don't have to, but to have the experience that I deem as vital, you do have to go get those mods. Like I cannot tank in that game without having the mods I feel are a necessity. And like most games aren't like that. And most people, if you get someone fresh into WoW, like Tina, your experience, how difficult did you find it to go and find relevant mods and get them installed?
I needed a friend to tell me what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's
They
a lot of
gave me the link. They were like, just download this. And I was like, okay. And, they made it easy, but I don't think I
no,
would have.
that's the problem is we can't expect every fucking player to be the power user that they need to be to know to get this mod and this mod and this mod, and don't install them with that installer, install them with this installer, and to figure out which don't work with the others, to fix it when the updates break. Sometimes there's a very high barrier to entry to experiences that would otherwise be accessed by more people. Just if it was like, let's setting aside all the other accessibility stuff we were talking about people who are differently abled. The other issue can just be simply like a lack of knowledge. Like you just don't know, or you're not patient enough to spend all the time learning about all the mod stuff.
Yep. Like System Shock 2 has a great community patch for it. It actually got an update, another one I think like 3 months ago, but it's been going for, I want to say near 20 years now. Yeah, it's like their big overhaul.
No
for
shit.
it.
You know what else has that? Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
Yeah,
I think there's just some fastidious German man out there who's just been cranking away for 20-something years.
That's the plus.
For the love of it, right?
Yeah, the dude, he must love it. They must love it. I don't really know anything about him.
They're a different breed.
But
the
sorry,
GOG version,
version.
like for Vampire, the GOG version just includes, I don't know if it's the most up-to-date one, but they include that mod in it. Because like, if you're playing this game, like, if you're playing this game, you should have like the plus mod in there. I don't know if it has like all the options enabled for like restored content and stuff, but like, you had the same thing for Knights of the Old Republic, where they had that restored content mod, and I think for the Switch release and like the was it a remaster? They had some re-release of it, but I know it included,
I think it was a remaster.
Yeah, but that like included that in there too. And
which
going
is
back
wild,
to
right?
and going back to System Shock, now it's like there's for 2 you had all these mods that most people install playing the game, and now like Night Dive, they're working on the enhanced edition. And from what I understand, like they're touching up some models, they're doing a lot of work on it, but they're also just like flat out integrating some of those mods into it. Where it's like, oh yeah, most of the community is already playing with these, so to a degree, like let's just put these in there because it's what people are doing. Which then you have the question of, okay, well, how much value will the game offer beyond, like if I could go and find these things myself, like then what's the value in that? And it's, oh no, we're gonna add these we're gonna put on our engine, like we're gonna fix multiplayer support since that's been broken forever. Like they're adding value into it that's not just, I guess, a little more than like a consumer remaster like people could do on their own without a lot of time and effort. And I guess a lot of my issues with remakes and remasters is that like the stuff we're remaking is like games that were perfectly fine for the most part. Like Silent Hill 2 is an example of, okay, that one's like hard to get into. Like I would also be like, that seems like an off one. Like the fact Dead Space got a remake is still kind of crazy to me. Though history repeated itself for the PC port, still kind of botched now, where people have stutter issues on drivers. It's like, oh wow, it's just like the original. So like they kept that intact. But it's like when you think of films, no one's gonna be like, oh wow, I can't wait for a Lord of the Rings remake because the trolls are gonna look so much more HD. It's like how you engage with a remake or a remaster of games is so much different than any other media, really.
Medium,
yeah, because like you can have like a new edition of a book that adds like some changes, but they're not gonna like rewrite huge portions typically. Like you have these movies, like most reboots, not all of them. It's like you have The Thing, like everyone loves goes to The Thing remake, where people love that, where that's basically a reimagining of The Thing from another world completely beyond just scary thing alien in the Arctic. And then speak of the devil again, Night Dive is doing a remaster of the Thing game in I think 2 weeks. And the Thing game, it has some really, for those who don't know about it, it was a PS2 kind of era one. It has some really interesting ideas, and about half of them are functional. It is it is a nightmare of a game to play through. Like you go through they had this idea like, oh, you'll check who's the thing, and you have like these classes like Half-Life Opposing Force in your squad. Like I need an engineer to open doors for me, and like a medic heals me. But you have to check who's the thing, like with the blood test. So you're going through the game like, I didn't see my squad mate for a while. I need to check if he's the thing. And that's like a really amazing idea, especially for a movie tie-in game back then, where it's like it's space chimps and like it's just like trash that they're going, oh, what's the movie gonna be about? We're not telling you, just make a game for it so we could release it to promote the movie. Like they went really hard on this idea for it. The problem was they started executing it and they went, oh wait, if you need an engineer to like open this door, what happens if they're the thing? Now you can't open that door anymore. So it's, oh shit, like we can't make this work. So okay, fuck it. You know what? They only become the thing at like certain stages in the game. Then they just become the thing no matter what. So you could check their blood. Oh, they're good. You walk 5 steps, rah, and they turn to the monster. You go, what is this? This is terrible. So it's
Do you think they'll change it?
I don't think so. Like I need to play it like when it comes out, but maybe beforehand we'll see. But it's more that it would completely change the game if they did fix that. You would have to reimagine so much about it. But the fact they're remastering such a fundamentally flawed game, I find a lot more interesting than this sold like hotcakes before. We can resell this again with some visual touch-ups. But it's also like looking at that game, it's like, oh wow, that would more benefit from like an Alien Isolation like remake. Like I wish remakes were, that was a really interesting or good idea executed poorly. Let's try again with a different approach and see if this can work. But the industry right now is going, for the most part, this game sold exceptionally well or has some kind of fan base. It's in a franchise. It has really strong roots. We can sell this again and make a shitload of money off of it. And so far, they're mostly right with those.
Yeah, as much as I love and adore the RE4 remake, when I first saw it, I was a total skeptic. I was like, RE4, like...
Yeah, what's the point?
What made it special?
Feels great still.
It feels great, and what made it so special is still special even to this day. How can Leon move and shoot? That's insane! It'll never work. Was my take on it. But then I played it, and I'm like, wow, they made it work, and it was great, and it was super fun. And I'm actually so excited for 5 because I don't know what they're gonna do there, but maybe I'll.
5's gonna be so tricky. 5 is an interesting one. That's like how do you remake 5? Like. That's gonna be tricky redoing 5 today. So
I know.
I'm excited to see what they do there. But that's like an interesting remake. Like 5, like that's a controversial one. Like people weren't like the co-op was weird. But it's like no one. I don't want to say no one. Like Night Dive doing the thing is like, no matter how that comes out, I applaud them for doing a fucking the thing, the game remaster. But it's so hard to sell these companies on like, hey, so there was this game from 25 years ago. It sold like dog shit. It had like 40 in the Metacritic. We want to have. Can you give us like $5 million to give us another crack at it?
You know what I would love if there was a game studio that just remade the shittiest games but made them like blockbuster hits. You know, they took that on as a personal challenge. That'd be amazing.
So would that be like? Okay, what would be an example of that? Like you're saying, a shitty game that gets turned into an excellent game. What's a good example of like
Halo's falling off? It's time for the Haze reboot.
Oh my god!
Fucking Haze, dude.
Haze is back, baby.
Let's do it.
Haze is back, starring Troy Baker. It's gotta be about whippets.
Shit, yeah, and he's going up against a Nolan North like antagonist.
Yeah, General Skincoat's back.
You have a whole different skill tree of different combat drugs you unlock.
This is our. Yeah, this
Korn
is
more
our
songs for it.
Fuck yeah.
This is our improv pitch. This is the improv pitch. We're doing it right now.
Okay, we've transitioned. We've transitioned. All right, what games could you? All right, so we'll pick one. We'll pick one, and then we'll take it, and then we'll say how we're going to turn it into a better game.
Oh,
What we're going to bring about it.
A remake of any video game. I'm looking at my library.
That is shit. That is objectively bad.
Okay. Remake or remaster?
I think it would have to be remake.
Okay,
Right?
sure.
You'd have to read.
You don't want to remaster a shitty game. You're not going to sell anything. I don't
Well,
think.
Night Dive's doing the thing right now, and I'm so excited to see how that turns out. It's like, this movie tie-in game that was kind of has a little bit of a cult following, but I'm so glad they're doing that because that's such a strange choice.
Yeah, I really rose an eyebrow at that, and I agree with you largely about what you're saying. But a shitty game that needs it.
Like everyone made fun
like-
of Superman 64. I'm sure you can make that fun.
Oh, fuck!
That's
interesting.
I've got mine.
Superman 64. Can we keep the fog?
He flies
the
through
dense
rings with
fog.
these big sonic waves behind him. Even like Mach speed. It looks like when people make those like Unreal game demos for the Flash.
It's the exact same game, but you just had a shit ton of game feel, so it actually feels good
and like
to play.
a super compelling narrative with like excellent acting, excellent writing, but he's still flying through all the rings.
Yeah, combine Ace Combat with Superman 64.
Oh my god!
Clancy Brown's Lex Luthor talking about the rings over the radio.
I really like that idea, Tina. So Superman's like in a dogfight with some fucking F-15 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Suits
That would be a sick
are
game,
scrambling
like
to stop
having-
him.
Yeah, like
You must stop flying
having-
through rings, Superman. These violate treaty of airspace.
Imagine loading into a mission and
unifies.
it just being Superman basically flying into airspace that is contested, and he's just like he's got an earpiece in, and they're like, "You have to take out the nuclear facility," and just like flying through it and just destroying it and shit. That sounds pretty cool.
What's the narrative here? Did Superman go crazy like that Superman v Batman arc, or is he working for one of the countries? Does he have his own agenda? Why is he?
He hit his head and he's stupid now.
He hit his head.
You're playing as Bizarro. Bizarro.
Does he have a goatee?
I just love this.
I honestly think that's a refreshing story. If people saw the plotline was just Superman hit his head and he's stupid now, and he's flying through every ring
but
can
he still has all these like brute force
Yeah.
superpowers, right?
Yeah, like he sees the big donut on top of like a diner and he flies through it. Like he just can't stop flying through rings, and he's compelled to do it. Like, how do we have to bait Superman into this trap by like putting up rings for him to fly through.
Oh my
He hit his
God.
head and he's stupid now.
How do you
They can't
suppress
kill him.
someone that's not?
They- Right, they can't kill him, so they have like jets that are what do you call it, skywriting, and they're writing out messages saying, "Superman, you've sustained an injury. Please."
My God, he can't read anymore either.
He can't read.
Scramble more
They're
fires.
setting up the rings to delay him while they try and find a way to help
Because
him.
they know
Like,
the rings work, so they just
Lex
the rings
Luthor's
work.
like the
So
kill
many
Superman
rings to
device.
The only
We're
thing
running out of
that's
rings,
killing us.
Superman.
Yeah, you're Bizarro Superman. It's just
Oh, look at that! Thank you, Eric.
dumbass
Eric's pulled
Bizarro
up a-
Superman.
Eric's
Could we
pulled
make
up
him
a
think
picture of-
the top of a volcano was a ring and maybe he'll fly into it?
Oh my!
Put a hoop around the volcano.
rings? He's flying through the rings. He sees him going toward a volcano, and he goes, "Wait a minute!" and he veers off.
Doesn't work,
he
it's
didn't
too
take the
hot.
bait. Abort.
Put the rings closer to the lava.
What monuments in the world are rings? Because like he would just be beelining it towards it, and he'd be like,
Oh,
"A natural
no.
disaster."
The St. Louis arc. It's too
Oh,
much
it's
like
true.
a ring.
He's heading towards the
It's
St. Louis
happening.
arc.
and it'll get destroyed. There, you know how in every disaster movie there's like the iconic landmark getting exploded or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be what's it called? The St. Louis Arch. I don't actually know the name. That one.
Yeah,
He's like
I can
going around the
see
world.
this.
He's going
Yeah.
around the world destroying all of the Ferris wheels around the planet.
No, our Ferris wheel.
Flying through them.
I can see the video for this. Like I can see Unreal Engine 5. I could see the intense bloom. He's running through the grass field before he takes off. People are screaming, "WB, hire this man."
Oh my god!
With the magic and the developer giving the talk with the magic of level streaming, Superman can fly through rings all across the planet with no loading screens.
Jesus.
Hideo Kojima's scanning characters for the game that never appear. All these celebrities in the promotional material that just vanish.
No.
Wow, Josh Brolin's going to be in that new Superman 64 reboot. I can't wait. Oh, he plays the guy who drives the car that Superman throws. That was kind of brief.
My God. Okay, wait. Okay,
We have Superman 64. That's one game.
Yeah.
okay. I've got one.
Yes, please.
Okay,
What, is
as
this
Tina
Josh Brolin,
works
Tina?
on,
Did that break you?
I just. Oh my god.
as Tina works on breathing exercises, I've got mine, which is
Go. I'm ready.
Let's remake Night Trap.
Night
You guys
Trap.
remember
Oh,
Night
that's a
Trap?
good pick.
Good one.
Wait,
Yeah.
what? I'm looking.
It's going to be a Five Nights at Freddy's game if you want the most sales.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
cool.
It's called
so
Freddy's Mansion.
But let's not let it be, because this is
Oh,
this
wow.
exists in our minds. We can make
You're
it whatever
right.
we
You're
want.
right.
What
This
else
could be this could be anything.
Yeah.
So for
Oh.
Tina and listeners,
I'm
Night
looking
Trap,
at it right now. Wow.
Yeah, Night Trap is a game from 1992, which was a full motion video game where you're effectively monitoring cameras to save like a slumber party of girls from monster men. And
there's like burglars and stuff
I'll
too.
this. Yeah.
So you check the
I-
cameras. Oh, that room's fine. That's fine. Oh God, a burglar! I've got to do something.
I think we latch onto a genre that's doing very well recently, which is anomaly games, in the same vein as 10 Bells and stuff like that, where you're monitoring the cameras and instead of, oh, well, I just see where the ninja's sneaking about, it's more of what's different about this room. Is there an anomaly in here? And if you don't catch them in time, that's what happens. And it's also, Night Trap was very campy. I think we go for campy, but we juxtapose that with incredibly violent deaths.
Oh, that can be fun.
Jesus.
So you're monitoring, and it's a lot more subtle, finding anomalies. And if you don't catch them in time, there's this, bombastic death of a slumber party girl.
Oh my god.
They're calling it Harvester for the next generation. The kids can't stop playing it.
Perfect.
Oh my god. That's pretty good. That's really good.
That'd
reckon
be
we
super.
can
Could
do
be
that.
level in Stalker too if they tried. Like have him monitor some station somewhere.
How about, we don't know
Oh,
yet,
no,
we haven't
let's
got far enough in. Maybe Stalker 2 is just Night Trap. We don't know.
Yeah. Maybe we're gonna get to that point.
Oh
This
my
bridge
god.
will-
Could you imagine them making that
podcast.
creative decision? There's a lot that we can pull in from Night Trap into this project. Don't you all agree? And everybody looks at them
Oh
in the
my
meeting.
I would love to. I mean, the fact Night Trap got it was some sort of remaster. I don't know who did it, but I would have loved to be there for whoever pitched that to Nintendo, and then they said yes. That's incredible that they
Yeah,
made that
right?
happen.
Yeah, that'll
Like on
Plumbers Don't Wear
Switch, Night
Ties.
Trap. Yeah, that too. Yeah.
So it was released in 2017 by developer Screaming Villains.
Wow, cool name.
Yeah.
Got
Evocative.
him to get Night Trap back.
Or Legends.
Tina, do you have a
Amazing.
game you'd want to fix, or was your Superman 64?
Yeah, it was.
Right.
I can't think of a good one. I've got a couple that are less fun because they're games that I don't think got their fair shot. The Ship is one.
Oh
That's
yeah,
just
it's
like
great.
the
Social
Ship?
dedu-
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
a social deduction
Their
game.
ship.
Yeah. Oh, and
Super
look how
fun.
popular
Source
that is
one.
now. Right. It was first a Half-Life 1 mod, then they did a Source standalone one. It even had a single player. But it just it came out in the early 2010s, and I just don't think it had the mass that it needed to get a lot of attention.
Are you talking about the
now look
Ship
at-
Murder Party?
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Let me confirm that that's the.
Yeah.
It is okay. Yeah.
It came
Might
out in
be like a later version
2006.
of it.
Yeah. And that would be interesting. Not just now. I think the problem here would be it might just be an imitation of other social deduction games, but the theme is pretty cool and the art style was nice. So not a hilarious answer, but a game that I think would be cool to have another fair shot. Angels Fall First is another one. Again, not a shitty game by any means, but just a game that I think could have another fair shot. That was a UE3 engine game that had think Battlefield, but in space of boarding ships and fighting people while you're inside of ships, and then jumping out of yours, going onto a station and fighting. That was really cool.
It's still getting patched, I think. Angels Fall First is still around-ish. They just had never got the population to take off, I don't think. So yeah, it's a great, it's a cool game.
They're still in early access. I'm looking at them now. I'm
Still a
really
chance.
surprised. There's still a chance. Last update in June. Okay.
See, this is the game industry mindset. You're trying to reboot a game that's still in early access. This is unbelievable.
Oh no.
It's not even 1.0 yet. You're only trying to reboot it.
Shit.
What a travesty.
A cool game. Check out Angels Fall First. It's that's one.
Okay.
Can't think of many other. Oh wait,
I have a genuine
Okay.
interest in a remake that I would love, and
Tina, can I give one more? Because I think
Yes,
this
go
one's
ahead.
hilarious. I want to see a modern binary domain.
That'd be
fucking
fun. I
Yeah,
bet the voice
'cause
controls work a lot better nowadays.
Yeah, not a bad game. Also, I'm not really answering the question, but it would be fun to see a binary domain remake, the one where you fight all the robots and they're like surprisingly satisfying to shoot. It's a third
It's hard to
person,
do
like
for
very Gears
robots.
of War inspired. Yeah, it is, but they managed it. I felt at least add a co-op mode. You know, there's room for expansion to a lot of the things that they offered. That's it. Go ahead, Tina. I just want to say that.
Diddy Kong Racing, such a good game.
Oh,
That's a fun
Now while I'm
game.
drinking, Tina. Fuck.
What?
Diddy Kong
Really?
Racing.
What's wrong with Diddy Kong Racing? It was fun.
There's
love
nothing
it.
wrong with Diddy Kong. Just I'm imagining, I don't know, like a shit smooth Michael Bay style AAA Diddy Kong
Lots of
racing, I
bloom.
guess.
You're assuming so much about this already.
I
Explosions.
don't know why, because when I think about a remake, I think about going ham and putting all this money into it, and it's a known
Oh.
brand, right? Because it's fucking Diddy Kong.
I reckon really
and-
gritty, right? Like Diddy Kong's got an eye patch.
They're gonna scan
blood.
a real elephant and put it in with the turban and everything.
True to scale.
Get up to a
Hyper
mocap.
realistic apes and chimpanzees, like the entire
Oh,
Kong
fuck
family.
yeah,
is like,
horrible.
you could see every hair on them. It's using like that, like that Witcher
Yeah.
technology, like the what is it, NVIDIA Hairworks, where you see the
Yeah.
actual
Oh my
strands on
God,
them.
I hate it. I hate it so much. It reminds me of like the Lion King remakes, like live
Oh,
action.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
want it. I don't want it.
You
I
don't
want to
want
play
it.
Diddy Kong Racing again.
No.
We should stream it, Tina. I love Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah.
Well, there's that How to Train Your Dragon one now, where it's like they've solved the problem of oops, and well, I guess no, that's a different company, DreamWorks, but it's the same. It's the same shit.
Like
Like
How
Lion
to Train
King
Your
was.
live action How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my
They
God.
are?
I
Yes.
did not know that.
This happened like yesterday. This is brand new, but
Okay.
because for Lion King they went, oh, let's make the animals really realistic, and people
Yeah.
went, oh wow, they have no expression on their faces. It just looks like I'm staring at a big cat. So for How to Train Your Dragon, it just looks like instead of being a 100% CGI movie, it's now like an 80% CGI movie. They
Right.
like Toothless
Yeah.
looks almost the same. Yeah, look at Jay's face exactly.
I'm
That's
watching the
face.
trailer right now.
It's so gray. Gerard Butler's back, but he's just wearing a big beard. It's the most needless possible.
He was in the
there could
movie?
be.
I had no idea.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah,
he's
he
the
was the
father,
dad.
I believe.
So they said, put on this big fake beard and be dad again, and we'll redo all the same shots, but it'll look gray.
What is the fucking point?
Yeah.
I hate live action remakes so much.
Yeah,
Really?
this
It's
this
like-
is the game remake brain that Mikey and I get sometimes, where it's like, no, we don't need this.
Yeah.
we don't. It's fine. We don't need
It's
this.
true. I'm having the same thought. The Avatar live action remake, like not
Oh, right,
terrible,
that was
but like I
weird.
really didn't. There was a lot that I disliked about it. I guess overall, it didn't capture the original vibe. A lot of the acting felt like out of place. Like they felt too American in a weird way. You know what I mean? Like they were
I
too
know what you
modern.
mean,
I guess.
Hollywood.
I didn't
Modern
watch
American.
it. So, yeah.
Yeah. It didn't capture me. It didn't feel like the adventure that the original animated one was. Even though, like,
I mean-
you know, I didn't hate all the actors or whatever.
This is
How to
outside
Train
the
Your
games
Dragon.
industry.
Yeah.
No, I just meant like for. It's from that mindset of like the '80s, where it's like you're not legit until you have the movie. Like you've got a
Oh, I
live
guess
action
that's
movie,
true.
where it's like, oh wow, what a beautiful animated movie, what a beautiful animated show. Sorry, but when's this gonna be live action for adults?
Oh, dude, it is. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Taking animated, like beautifully animated movies with incredible stories that are great for all ages, and then making a live action version of it is an affront to art. And I think they're terrible. I don't think they should be made. And don't go see them. Vote with your wallet. Just go buy the original on Blu-ray or something, and support the original artist. Because fuck that, man.
And I
I'm
personally
waiting
say don't buy
for-
physical media and wait
I'm-
to get your ticket for Akira with live action Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart. Tina, please continue.
Oh my god. Please tell
I was
me you were
gonna say,
joking
like,
about that.
Me and the whole nation of Mexico will be waiting to watch Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, you mean Dragon Ball
Live action?
Evolution?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a live action. It was great.
Oh, it's
That's
uh,
real.
Oh, Dragon Ball Evolution, my man.
Evolution.
Enjoy.
It has
Oh,
the
look at that.
Me and Mandy
it has the old
have
the older
cursed
son.
knowledge.
Yeah, the older son from a War of the Worlds plays Goku.
Oh
Sorry.
shit.
Oh my god, it is the
Him.
guy from War of the
Yeah.
Worlds. Holy shit.
The one who runs off is like,
Fuck.
Dad, this battle's sick. I want to see it. Please let me see the takes. It's so
That's
cool.
very
Tom
Goku
Cruise
like.
just lets him go. Someone said, "Wow, that's
Forgot about
our
that
fucking
scene.
Goku. That's our Goku. He loves explosions."
Goku.
No wonder
He loves explosions. That's our Goku.
So he never died. He actually made it, and then he was Goku.
I think at the end of the movie, you see him is at the apartment. He just showed up.
Oh, really?
It's
Oh, no, I'm
fine.
sorry. You're right. I'm remembering. He's just there. I forgot. I actually like that movie, except
Me
for
too.
things like
Yeah.
that. I thought the vibe was actually pretty creepy.
Man, the
it's
tripods,
great.
Actually.
the
Yeah.
tripods, the scene where
Amazing.
Tom Cruise, the tripods come out the ground and they just start vaporizing people, and then Tom Cruise gets
yeah.
home and he's like caked in
Yeah.
like human remain dust,
Ugh.
and he doesn't realize, and it's like, and he shakes it all off. It's
Yeah.
so good, and the
The
sound design on the
sound
tripods.
is incredible on him.
Oh my god, it gives me shivers, man. It's so good.
Like that War of
Spielberg
the Worlds
turns
game
out he
they're
knows how to
making.
make movies.
There's
War of
that
the
guy
World
making
game.
that. Yeah, there's a dude. I think got permission from the studio now, or they had some sort of agreement. But it looks like the movie and had like the same tripod sounds. They might be changing some stuff now.
Oh, I see.
They're
Okay.
making.
It's like-
There's a company making a game. I remember this vividly because I was talking to some game dev friends of mine, and we were just like kind of similar to what we do here, like pitching just like crazy ideas. And I went, man, there should be an asymmetrical War of the Worlds game where one player plays a tripod and the others hide from it.
That'd be fun.
And they were like, oh, they'd never make that. It would never work. And then the next day, a company announced they were making it and released the trailer. It was crazy. It was
That's
weird.
Perfect.
they're so
Yeah,
scary looking.
A lot of film companies are trying to pitch their IPs for game content.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a lot of money,
yeah.
known money
And
in
in
it now.
reverse, right? There's a lot of cross pollination.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now they see the money in it, where it's like, yeah, you could give them an IP, you get 10% and hope they make something good. So whatever. Sometimes put out way higher numbers for a bigger IP, but
Yeah.
I would like Halo to try again with its show or a movie, and just like a reset, just you give it a clean slate.
Mhm.
And I guess I'm thinking of it because I'm thinking of like the importance of the anonymity of the chief, but I want people from Dread to be involved with the production. Because
that'd be
I really like
interesting.
that about Dread, about like the group. Obviously, the tones are completely different, but just the fact that they committed in that movie to like he's never going to take off the helmet. I think that they understood the source material of Dread to some extent, and they understood how you can give an actor a challenge of subtlety, right? Like they give Tom Hardy all the time when he has to wear a mask in multiple movies. That would be really cool to see. I'd like to see the Halo show try again.
especially because it's such a rich universe too, and like, hey, Master Chief could be a much smaller character in a larger story. And they said, hey, we have seasons of a TV show. Let's make the Master Chief show, where it's like he could be a piece of it, but focusing it around him like to that level is like as much flack as Halo Infinite gets. They handled like the Master Chief stuff so well as like a character.
Oh, you think so? Really?
It's just
Yeah.
everything
Oh.
surrounding it, right? Like I've got a weird relationship with Halo. I think like just in general that IP is probably one of the biggest fumbles over the last 10 years. Like there's so much they could do as such a rich narrative, and there's so many ideas they could be doing, but they're towing this line between, well, let's just make free again, or let's try and make the fans happy, but in return not. Like that again, that's kind of like the topic of remakes, right? Like they're trying to
Yeah. Sorry,
sure
they're trying
some
to
of
do
us
it, but not
here-
enough. Like,
I'm sure
where are
some of
they
us have
going
heard
with
the
it?
Halo pitches about the grapevine, where it's like, oh my god, that sounds so cool, but it's
Yeah.
no, we're not doing that.
I
It's too
can't.
risky,
I'm only speculating here, and I also have to be kind of vague. But like, I know somebody who's pretty involved with the Halo Infinite development, and without being specific, like I got the impression it was just fucking hell. And we can tell that from a public perspective. And the thing that, again, this is just speculation. The thing that I think happens when that shit happens is nobody wants to touch that again and take that risk because it went the way that it did. And I really liked Halo Infinite. Like single player, I still need to finish, and I'm like not sure how I feel about it. A little mixed. Multiplayer was awesome from the get go. I didn't agree with the monetization. Didn't agree with some of the progression, and there wasn't enough content for me. So there is still like some fumbling. I agree, but I just got the impression that because the development was such a problem, when that kind of thing happens, it takes so much momentum to get things started again and to get the right people working on it and to get the money to make it happen, because it is very expensive at that point.
I
So
remember
it is a pain.
interviewing for 343 as a producer, and I thought that it was kind of eye-opening in a strange way that at the time when I interviewed, they wanted me to, I was interviewing to be like a producer of customizing, your armor and stuff in the menu, and that was it. Like, and then I asked, like, oh, okay, well, for localization and multiplayer lobbies, blah 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 blah. Like, how do I interact with this? They're like, no, just this one menu.
Okay.
And if you think about like how many producers it would take to just silo them and features into this own little like tiny world, I feel like we were talking about earlier, communicating a broad goal or having things feel cohesive is much more difficult to do. And so just for me personally, I wouldn't enjoy working on a team where I was in charge of just one tiny little thing and then it's a part of a bigger piece, but then you can't really like interact with those other teams. Like it just, for me, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. No, that might not be the way to go. You're saying that they were telling you you're going to be hyper focused on this one thing, and that's that. You're not allowed to move from it.
Yeah, and I got the impression that a lot of the team was siloed like that, right? Like, so if someone was in charge of one game mode for Halo, they may not have communicated with all the other departments.
Yeah. Without being specific, what I've heard too was that there was there could be there was a siloing problem.
I can speculatively
so
confirm this is maybe. I mean, playing through it.
Sorry, I know.
Hey, game dev.
Yeah, single player has the same feeling I had as when I played the Phantom Pain, like Metal Gear Solid V, where it's you go through it where that had a lot more systems in place, but you get the sense like, oh wow, I can tell like there was so much more planned for this, and I know like,
man.
especially what people dig up when. I know people like going to concept art is never like all sorts of stuff gets lost in the concept art stage. That's meaningless.
Yeah.
But the stuff people are finding like rudimentary bits of and pieces like, oh wow, like there's so many interesting things that were clearly just cut for time and everything else happening with the production on it.
Yeah, like direct voice acting and stuff like that, which is something that's happening late into production once things get like greenlit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To have those in engine and sitting there just speaks to things being completely removed wholesale.
Yeah,
which does need to happen in nearly every game, right? Things do need to be cut, but historically with Metal Gear V5,
if I were
there was a lot.
If I were president of video games and the world, and I could like make up a law, it would be, and this is a complete fantasy, totally unrealistic. I don't think it'd be bad for the industry. It could be, but I like this idea. I would make it where after a game releases, 15 or 20 years go by, you have to release your source code and let the modders and the community do something with it. That would be my fantasy.
Oh, man,
dude, what?
That'd be sick as hell. That'd be sick, but it would never.
I see something in Tina's
50
face. Years. I know it would never happen. It's like a completely. This is like.
But Mikee's like, president of games. He has the power.
He's president. That's true. Star Trek would look at this and say that's too idealistic because I know I'm being idealistic. But it's a fun fantasy for me because I think about Metal Gear Solid 5 and like, man, if modders took hold of that, think of all the cool shit that they could do if they had unlimited access. That would be a beautiful, creative, artistic thing. And as president of video games, maybe I'll be able to pull it off. We'll see. 15, 20 years, that's a long amount of time, right?
That has been my biggest change from going to like working at Hooded Horse compared to being like, oh, I'll do like reviews of games, because you always like playing them, you get the sense of like, I guess looking at them the way I would do it is like, oh yeah, it feels like there was something missing here, like there's clearly more planned, and like seeing firsthand how much those things can change before launch, or like, oh, like this was supposed to be placeholder, now it's shipping, where it's like I always got a sense, I got like a little bit of a sense like how much that happens, but it's more like how people outside of it don't know, like oh, this game was like okay when it came out, or like, yeah, this one is fine, or it's like, oh, I saw this like at a way earlier stage, like thinking even outside of Hooded Horse consulting, like, oh, you don't even know how bad things were before at one point. Like the fact it got to like this level, like, oh, this is like an all right game. Like people move mountains to get to that level sometimes. And it's like it all just kind of gets hidden away into the annals of history and talks at bars, but it's like, man.
Yeah. That's the only place it will ever exist in, and then it will fade. Yeah. And then it'll just be the game until that fades and the sun explodes. But still, you're right. Like it's interesting really how that shit is just lost. It is.
Yeah. Like I went to school for like when before games took off, I double majored in history and political science. So big thing is like, oh wow, I was doing like archive and genealogy work on the side, and seeing how how much game history is essentially the same problems we'd encounter doing like early American history. You would have accounts of like battles, the Civil War, like stuff, and colonialization, like that whole period. And you would have like, oh, the Native Americans are mainly just using oral history. And oral history, in most academic circles was not taken very seriously until fairly recently in the study here, really. Because they go, oh, if it's not written down, like, like that's sort of not more like a witness account, like it doesn't have the weight to it, even if the story's been passed down near verbatim for 300 years or something like that. When so much of game history is like, oh, there's this rumor that came out, or this journalist talked to someone else and went through some telephone and came out. And then like maybe 20 years later, a dev will be asked directly about something and go, oh, now that like enough time has passed, it's been like 20 years where, okay, I might not be in trouble for talking about this. My memory's fuzzy on all the details, but here's what I think we wanted to do based on my recollection. Like even the Half-Life documentary that came out, it's like we're losing so much of the process and like what actually happened to just the ravages of time. And it's so sad.
Yeah.
One last comment, then we do have to. We want to move to comments, I think. But you realize, Mandy, that you are a part of this preservation when it comes to games, right? Like, as far as like what's the zeitgeist or something deeper than the zeitgeist, how will people remember certain projects? It's going to largely come down to certain content creators who like did the video on it that got the most views, that then perpetuated itself on top of all search results. I feel like popular opinion of what kind of game Darkest of Days is going to be based around you, right? Or somebody like you who did that review, and that's how it's going to be remembered.
It's a harrowing. I don't want to say it's that harrowing, but it was more kind of realizing I was at that stage because I'd see discussions about some game like a little bit, and then I would see people repeating points I had made about the game, but then like other things I knew weren't true about it, where it's like, oh god, this is someone who's just watched like a YouTube video, and they're talking about like other assumptions they made off of it. So now it's like this. Not that I'm like making the entire perception of something people aren't going to be playing much, but it is different where it's like, oh, people can, if a YouTube video or something is popular enough, people will repeat some point or criticism from it, and they won't go and experience it themselves. And it's like, that's what it could be relegated to. And it can even be like inspired by, I've had people directly tell me that like, oh yeah, I saw your video on X game or whatever, and working on mine, like I'm implementing this feature you talked about because I think that's really cool. Where it's like, oh, that's like I didn't think I'd have that kind of effect to that level, but it's also like they didn't play the game themselves to kind of feel out that feature. They said, oh, I saw you reporting on that, and that inspired me to go and do this thing on my own. Where it's like, I am still a secondary source for that. So it's like there might be more nuance to it that you get by playing the game compared to just getting this kind of peek at it.
Yeah.
But I think you're right.
It's tough, right? Like I've had devs contact me on like specific videos I've made covering health bars and how to frame health and stuff like that, and then be like, oh, through watching your video, it's changed how we're doing health in our game, and we're approaching it in a different way from what we thought we were doing conventionally, which is great, right? But also this same to your point, are they doing that because of maybe one or two sentences I said in that video that was based on me looking at 100 different games and context, right? Because a huge thing with game dev is there's never one answer to any solution. It's all dependent on your systems, your target audience, how you frame things. I know the team that messaged me, I have faith that they're doing the correct thing, but there is a sense of responsibility as content creators where how we frame information might influence and does influence a wide range of gamers and other creators. So there's a responsibility there, and it's difficult to manage.
It loops back to the remakes and remasters thing. People can play a game they thought was popular, and it's like, oh wow, this is what people liked about it, right? Like the Thief reboot, maybe some people played Thief in the head of it. We're like, okay, I like these darkness, I like stealing, where it's like you're not getting all the aspects that the general player base liked about Thief, where it's, hey, this is just my personal insight into, I really like this about this game. The problem is you're that one person who could then put a video about, I like this thing about it. Then people go, oh, this game is cool because it does this thing, where there could be something you didn't touch on or missed, or something about how that didn't work. It's just nuts how it spreads out like that.
There's a reason why the term used to be influencer, right? Now it's creator.
They're all nightmare terms, interchangeable.
They sound a little. There's always a little bit of a chill, and I use them in a professional context, but like the power in centralized to certain people, it's kind of daunting and crazy. So I get what you mean. Yeah.
I always this is just a personal anecdote that makes me sound like an asshole.
Continue. I'm sure it'll be fine.
I've been to like industry events where I'm like, hi, I'm, I introduce myself. And then they're like, hi, I'm a content creator. And then I want to say me too, but not in this, like, it's just weird to be like, I'm a content creator. Yeah.
You are.
Like, oh yeah, me too. But
When you say that, are you referring to the fact that you, in a literal sense, make video game content as a developer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I
see
just
what you
like the
mean.
term. Like, I didn't like content creator because it sounds like, oh, I'm making content. Like, just, I will say, oh, I'm like a video editor, really. Where it's like you're just watching videos. Like, I love consuming your content. Like, ooh, that feels a little weird and slimy, but
Yeah. It
Do you
feels
like
very
critic?
factory-like.
I mean,
yeah.
well, being a critic makes sense to me. Yeah.
I thought I didn't like it until I heard influencer. No, you know what? Content creator's okay.
Yes. Influencers feel so
that one's actually not so
dirty
bad anymore.
and sticky. It's horrible. Yeah, 100%. Right, we should probably get to donos because we've got quite a few. So we won't be able to linger too long on each one and answer, but we'll try and answer them best we can. Just a reminder to everyone that all of the podcasts and series on Second Wind are supported by your wonderful donations and on Patreon. So for everyone who donated today, thank you so much. And we'll get through them. So you read a few of these, Tina. So if I start reading one that you read,
Yeah. I'll let you
punch me in the face.
Okay.
Right.
Directly punch him in the face.
Just
Hold
like
on,
tap
give
you in
a little
the-
time for
in the
Tina to
throat.
get to Jay's room.
Yeah,
On
I'm
the
only on
throat?
the
You're gonna
different side of
fuck
the
him on the-
country. No, I'm on the East Coast rather than England. All right, Frogs disseminating other frogs for friends gives $5 and says, "Joke, I'm disappointed Mandalore didn't join in VTuber form. How dare you?"
I don't have any VTuber form. I'm not showing up. I might make some nightmare rig and.
I have a friend who does VTuber shit, and I was considering reaching out to them and Mandy and saying like, "Hey, would this be fun to you, or is this too much?" But I decided against it.
That's probably good. Like, hey, look, we presented you this. It's gonna be you, and it's gonna dance around the screen. Its eyes is gonna kind of look one way wrong, and it's gonna just snap into facial positions,
which might make it better. I decided against it though because I thought like I don't want to bug them. This is probably too much trouble. But it's a cool software that they know or that they have rather. Anyway, continue, Jay.
Yeah.
No worries. Wild Josh gives $10 and says, "How did Mandalore escape the hooded horse influencer dungeon? Wait, Faustian bargain work release program. How did you get that?"
I'm glad it's already pulled up. Yeah, so I did the publisher showcase for Hooded Horse this year, and a lot of things that seemed like bits were not really bits. I was basically moving places, and the place I moved into had a disgusting basement filled with like it had a mold problem and like the ventilation and stuff. So I said, "This is horrible, but this is also production value." And because they said, "Oh, you go make the publisher showcase," I said, "Okay, I will do it on my own and lean into this being a low budget solo project. I'm gonna film it on a webcam from 2006. I have nothing to announce."
Blair Witch Project.
Yeah,
It looks so good.
So I had no games to announce. I had no reveals really. So it's okay. I will just go in here and vaguely talk about the games we have. So that was fun to work on.
So was the radon level truly that high where you were?
That was actual radon tests they took before the house, where you could see it getting like up towards the borderline of the danger zone, but then it would go down. Like that plug coming out of the concrete into the outlet, that's 100% real.
Oh my
like
gosh.
the dead lizard, the sludge in the walls, that was all completely real. And I was like, people are gonna think this is like some bit, but no, this was
a high profile
terrible
set
tradition
you'd built.
You're not a creator, you're not an influencer, you are an artist. That's what you are. You are committed.
That
dude.
video proves it, Mandy. What the hell?
Yeah, but like the production notes, like people going through that looked at with a lens that it's less of a bit, and a lot of it was real conditions, like production notes I was getting, but it was a lot of fun.
Absolute fire. All right, Dark Jackal, $5, thank you. It says, "Thanks for the conversation. Very random question. What do you like to do when you need a break from video games?"
That's a nice question.
Is this for all of us?
Let's take it for all of us. How about?
I think it should be for all of us.
Yeah.
Lay on the floor.
I'm like the exact opposite situation. So taking
have
a
you have
break is a
kids.
video game. Yeah.
I mean, I go for walks. I go, like, I'll see some movies sometimes. Just kind of go out with friends if they're available. Since adult friendships are a magical world where it's like, oh, I can't wait to see each other again in maybe 3 to 6 weeks if our schedules all align perfectly.
Yeah.
We've been reading more because I've been catching up. I haven't been reading as much as I should the past few years, so I'm gonna try to make time for that.
Yeah.
What you reading?
Oh man, one of my friends just finished Infinite Jest, and I said, "Wow, I will not be reading that again." I only read part of it, and I couldn't get as far through it. I've been reading through the Dune series again. It's like the movies came out. It's like I should like try and give Heretics of Dune another shot and go through the later ones, since Frank Herbert basically on book 4 he goes, "Sorry, a worm talked at you for a few hours. Here's my book that's basically hentai." And you're like, "Ooh, like this."
God Emperor of Dune.
Yeah, but then after that, it's like,
So
there's sex control. There's like, there's sex scenes in it. It gets crazy later on, but So I'm like,
had
oh
no
no, this is
idea.
still weird. Dune, the ad series gets weird.
I read it in college, and I this was not the right move because I missed out on good fiction. But I stopped at the hand in the pain box. I was like, I'm sorry, this is a little too weird for me, and I closed it and I never picked it up again. In the very, very first. Eric has a picture of Doom, DOOM. Also a great book series. Do you guys ever read the fucking Doom book?
No,
Rocks.
you got filtered by the Gom Jabbar, but I guess I'll check out the Dune book.
The Doom book is just like the game Doom. I ran down the corridor. I couldn't find the red key.
Oh, really?
I turned around and it's like it's not.
Oh,
okay.
that's sick. I thought it'd be based off like the movie with The Rock.
But it's pretty. No. Like it's the game Doom in the first book. It's like pretty close to I think Doom 1. And I mean I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's pretty much just like I ran around, and it's got one of the best. I guess the word would be metaphors I've ever read. He fires the rocket launcher at the Baron of Hell, or one of the bosses, I forget, the Spider Mastermind, and he says that the sound it made sounded of the Spider Mastermind or whatever exploding sounded like a supermarket being slam dunked into a mountain. And that stuck with me so well. Isn't that rad?
Dude, I was not.
Weird,
I did not think that could live up to what you said being like one of the best metaphors you ever said, and it blew my expectations out the water.
Can you imagine the sound of the supermarket?
The chaotic of everything flying apart.
I can hear it.
Yeah,
debris, the amount of fragments it goes into.
Oh my god, that's so
And
cool.
it describes a rocket launcher being shot at a demon from hell. So like it matches the insanity of that action. But anyway, that's a fun book.
Some real artistry in Doom the novelization.
Yes, exactly.
I'll have to get that.
Absolutely wild.
From what I remember, yeah. Sorry, what were we talking about? Ways that we take a break. I also like to go on walks, ride my bike. Been a big biker ever since Amsterdam. Loved it. And I guess just relax and stuff. I don't know. Like I can't think of any other things, but it's usually just decompression feeling things. Yeah. Go ahead.
Mine's ever since I came to the US, I've actually had the reverse where work had been so intense with, being a YouTuber and game dev at the same time and working on weekends, like I didn't want to play games in my free time because it was just all encompassing and everything. Very similar to what you were talking about, Tina, with working in AAA and that being your whole thing. But now that I've come to the US, my evenings are free again. And because I'm not streaming or in meetings or in podcasts and stuff like that in the night in English time, so I actually find myself excited to play games again, which is like I haven't felt in the last 4 years, and it's really refreshing. So for me, at the moment, I relax and I try and play a game in the mind frame. And like Mandy, I'm sure you deal with this, which is playing a game and trying to turn my content brain off of like, how can I make this a video, and just be like, I want to play a game and have fun and relax and stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying having that back again.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real struggle too, is that when you have, I don't know, people will go like, oh, content creator is the hardest job in the world. Like, it's not.
Woe is us, right?
I've worked retail, it's not. But it is, the thing that does suck is that when you're done with retail or like a 9 to 5, you go home and you go, wow, work was rough, but now work's over. But when you make your own hours for doing videos, it's like, I'm sitting here, like, I'm watching a movie, but I could be working on something else. Or you're cooking projects in the back of your mind, or like, oh, I should just play this game for fun. And like, oh, could I do a video on this actually? Like, this is an interesting thing. Or
Dude, I've written down 3 video ideas in this time we've been in this chat.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Superman
No, I can't because
64.
they're already
Oh, you
they're,
can't.
they're,
Okay.
they're good.
Okay,
I
no,
want to
no,
keep them. I wanna
Superman
keep it.
60.
It's Superman.
But a lot of them,
Superman's one of
a
them.
lot of them are potential, like getting.
I know
people
one
on
of
the
them's
show, so-
accessibility. It has to be.
Yeah, one of
The
them's
hidden
accessibility.
beauty of Superman 64.
Another one's
That's
to do
what we're calling
with
it,
Call
right?
of Duty. There's a Call of Duty one.
The quiet
and there's another
sadness
one
of
that I want to
Superman
keep secret.
64.
Quiet
Yeah,
sad.
it's Superman
Stop.
64.
The liminal horror of Superman 64.
No, another one. So another
My
one. I won't
earbuds are
speak
gonna
too
pop
much.
right out. Sorry,
Marathon. I want to make an episode on marathon. And
Hey, you
potentially
need
that
notes.
level.
I'm your man.
Dude.
Marathon's
Let's
a
link
cool
up. Let's
game.
educate me on marathon. You can hold
Did
my
a
hand
deep
Hell yeah.
dive, dude.
while we go through it.
Yeah, I'll send you a video series I
easily.
found of like a recent deep dive too.
Sick. Awesome. Okay. Cool.
There's this
Level
one
by
guy going
level.
through the. Yeah, it's him. Where he goes
Yeah,
through
wait.
level by level. They're like.
We're talking about the same guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
They're each
yeah.
like 40 minutes long where he goes through like everything in it, and it's crazy.
Developer commentary and like, here's why he put the trash can here instead of here.
Yeah.
So sick. Oh, you got okay. Let's smash through these. Tina just said she's got a hard out, so let's get through these. GG Lag Master gives 10 Ron.
Ooh.
We had that last time. They're ready or nots. Haha, just kidding.
They're ready or not. 10 ready or not.
Romanian?
It says Mandy. When will you make a classic
Romanian, yep.
Fallout video?
Oh, eventually. It's such a boring answer, but it'll come eventually. It's like I'd rather do
At some
something
point.
more off. I gotta get to Age of Decadence first on the RPG train.
That's a big one, man. The original Fallout, the original Deus Ex. Some games are so iconic and huge, and you only do them once. So
Yeah,
take
you
your
feel
time.
like you need to have a big.
No, like
big
I've
project.
played through it before, but the problem is also like I do run into that sometimes. It's like I could do a thing on Fallout, or should I talk about this more washed up or like weird thing that was out there people don't know about? Where it's like I'm sure people love hearing about something they're also familiar with more, but
People
like,
have to know about this Hungarian World War II RTS. I have
yeah,
to
exactly.
make this video.
I got scammed at Best Buy for $20, so now I have to make a return somehow. My little child me has to get his allowance back.
No, I get that, I get
Sovereign,
that.
you gotta read. Eric. Or not Eric, sorry. Jay.
Oh, it's not on my list.
Oh, I'll read
It
it.
goes Frogs
They
are Wild,
donated
Josh, Dark Jackal.
50 euros and says, Hi Mandalore, big fan of your vids. I love it when you go through weird ass video game plots. Have you ever considered going down the Remedyverse rabbit hole like you did with Bungie? As for remakes, what are each of you guys' favorite full remakes?
For Remedy answer, I might do a Quantum Break thing, even though that'd be out of the actual order of things, I guess, with Max Payne. So yeah, that could happen, but it would be another big project. Maybe I actually want to do an Alan Wake themed Halloween thing for my house this year, but I didn't have enough time. Because I have like projectors doing like little dances for Herald of Darkness in the trees.
Cool.
But, yeah, collective question was what was it again?
What are each of
remake.
you guys' favorite full remakes? Marvel
Ooh.
vs. Capcom 2, probably.
Nice.
Second, yeah.
I guess it would have to be Resident Evil 2 HD, the one I said earlier. Did a
Yeah.
lot with that one.
Another Capcom
I'd have to think
good one.
though. Yeah.
Remaster would just be Beyond Good and Evil for me, but that's just because I am a hopeless, nostalgia-driven thrall. So
In Mandalore?
This is tricky because there's like the Age of Empires like 2 and Mythology like HD versions were great, and those have like outright remakes too, which I was like, we don't really need those. I try to think of a remake I really like because there was. I'm struggling to think of a remake I was like really on board with. I guess the Dead Space one was probably the most interesting for me and what like they had changed.
Mm-hmm.
But off the top of my head, it's hard for me to like. I love the like there are remasters I know I really enjoy, like the Homeworld one was great. There's so many remasters, like it's just the game where they've touched up a bit. But think of a whole remake. It's not the Doom 3 BFG edition. I don't know why I thought that. That's not a remake.
Doom 3 BFG. Oh, that's the one.
That's also a remaster.
Hell
that's like,
yeah.
That's like a bad one to go you like as a remaster because that BFG is a really scuffed one, but
I guess mine
I don't
was,
remember it that well.
maybe
Remaster
Skyrim.
too.
Maybe Skyrim got remade at some point. I didn't keep track.
If I pretend Quake 4 was a remake, then that would be one of my answers.
Oh, because that's
it
a
could have
Quake
been-
2 base. Well,
Pretty much, right? But
I
not
love
really,
Quake 4.
Not really, but
still,
I
I'll
love
take Quake 4.
too, man.
I love Quake
Yeah.
4. If that counts. I would love to take Quake 4 as a 2 remake.
Yeah.
So for the next all of the donations, we're going to do a rapid fire because we've only got 10 minutes left before we need to wrap up. So
Okay.
we're gonna
got time. We're good.
if they require a
Yes.
response, we're gonna be off the top of our head, straight answer
Got it.
onto the next one because we got a lot of donos. So
Yes, Mr. J.
Snacks a Lottle gives $6.99 Canadian dollars and says nothing, just a dono. Thank you so much. Mopman43 gives $4.99 and says, "Hey Mandalore, love your Total Warhammer content. Hope we get the next DLC soon. Do you plan on doing a video on it when it comes out?"
Probably not when it comes out. For reference, I did videos covering most of I think all the DLC for 2 and basically the launch of 3. And 3's launch was just a little rough, so I think it's gotten a much better state now, so that'll be coming down the line. It's more just figuring out the time to when I could really get into those games again, since between doing other videos and Hooded Horse work, it's the hours run short.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. Bookworm776 gives $5, thank you, and says, "I have severe." Oh, we read this one. Severe migraines.
Yeah, we read that one.
Accessibility is really important. Thank
Do
you
not
for
play
sharing,
Ikaruga.
Bookworm, by the way.
Fucking A.
Do not play Ikaruga.
Ikaruga. Oof.
Hokey Pokey gives $5 and says, "The Dark Souls get good mentality has done irreparable harm to gaming culture. Accessibility exists almost in contrast to it." Yeah, agreed. Hokey Pokey. Sinu gives $4.99. Thank you, and says another important accessibility option is just hold the button instead of mash it. My hands cramp easily. QTEs have stopped a playthrough for me.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure.
Dave the Diver has that. It was a good move.
Smart.
Yeah, I believe Dead by Daylight has that an option as an option in its accessibility features. Matthew C. Snow, $4.99. Thank you. And says, "For your information, the Switch version of KOTOR 2 didn't add the mod for legal problems."
Oh, interesting. Only the Switch version. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I wonder why the rules would be different there. That's actually really interesting.
I know
For a
that
second,
port
thought they
was
were going
delayed.
to. I thought they were going to say the Switch version of Night Trap that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. It could be there was something else going on behind the scenes, because I remember the Switch version was delayed past the PC one, so who knows, but that's interesting if it's true. Something legal.
Strange. Noel Heron gives $4.99. Thank you, and says, Warlocracy has a fantastic review on VTMB with all the important mobs. Highly recommend. Warlocracy. What a great name.
Yeah. Is
He's
he
great.
Russian?
Yeah,
I
he
don't-
does RPGs.
Okay. I think I know him. Yeah, I don't know him personally,
really
but I know
dig
his
that name.
content. Yeah.
Beautiful.
a
I'll
good
have to check
dude.
him out. More legend. Julro gives €2. Thank you. And says, recently played Tyranny made me want Manda more.
Tyranny is a great RPG, and I wish they hadn't. I wish things went differently with it, because I'd love a follow up to Tyranny.
I've not checked it out. I'll have to, because
RPG where you play as, it's basically actually Judge Dredd, Mikey was mentioning earlier. Basically, the bad guy's Sauron 1, and you play as one of his Judge Dredds. And you go around through the land, so it's like you can do RPG decisions, but it's still framed as you're an agent of the evil overlord. They like a lot of stuff was a lot of stuff was cut in the game, unfortunately. So it's like it has that problem like near the end, you could just be like, oh man, a lot's been cut out here, but still a really interesting game.
Yeah, that sounds great. I want to check that out. All right. So, PM Astripolito. Damn, you're really testing my dyslexic powers here. Dungeon Lords, a bad action RPG, would be a fun one to remaster into a better game. I've never played Dungeon Lords. Have any of you played Dungeon Lords at all?
I'm looking. I got to look it up now. 2? Did they say 2? Dungeon Lords 2?
No,
this
just
looks
one.
a lot
I
like
think.
Sacrifice, actually, but if it was like an that looks.
Oh fuck yeah, Sacrifice. There's
interesting.
one. That should have been my answer. Damn it.
Sacrifice would have been
down.
good too. Oh fuck.
Yeah. Fix the voiceover and all that, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that that could
Yeah,
be
when you
fixed.
say fix the voiceover, you mean like I hated Tim Curry in that game.
No. The repetitive combat dialogue. That's all.
Get
all.
Colonel Campbell out of here.
I want more Tim Curry.
Always a
Go
good
ahead,
thing
Jay.
for sure. Luke B $5 says remake 007 Nightfire co-op, especially included, even if Activision has to make it. Too bad. IO has the IP.
Yeah, there's always GoldenEye Source. People want multiplayer in 007.
That's a cool project.
Literal golden standard. Has any Diogenes the Cynic gives $5. Thank you so much. It says, has anyone mentioned Drakengard? I always wanted a Dragon Rider game.
Oh god, Drakengard. There's
I
Lair.
haven't touched
There's
it.
always Lair for the PS3 if you want to ride dragons.
Lair. What a
Yeah.
throwback.
Or
Yeah.
there's Divinity Dragon Commander if you want to be a dragon with a big jetpack and
In the
decide what's not.
Divinity.
What's that
Yeah.
dragon game that they're remaking with that starts with P?
Dragon
Starts
game
with
that
P.
starts with
I can't
P.
remember what it is. It was on the PS3, I believe. It was
Panzer Dragoon.
Panzer Dragoon.
Oh,
Yeah.
are they really?
That's
They're remaking
like,
Panzer Dragoon, yeah.
I had that on the fucking Sega Saturn, man. That was
Damn,
a
dude.
throwback.
Oh, that's interesting. Weird. Okay.
They made RPGs. They made the like third person, almost like a light gun style arcade
Yeah.
game.
right.
It's an interesting game. Yeah, cool universe.
Storm Templar gives $2. Thank you. It says, Mandy, when are you going to join the Evil and stream?
Probably when I have less working hours.
So never.
It's such a boring answer, but it's like I already streamed once in a blue moon even before this, so
Yeah.
of course it's not sponsored by whatever this is sponsored by, which I should plug a rival or something. I'll think about it later.
Who's a rival to Mind Cop?
Mind
Elevator
Cop.
Action on the Super Nintendo. I don't know.
Night Trap.
This stream is sponsored by Night Trap.
Night Trap 25th
Serious
anniversary edition.
Night Trap is a criminal advocate game. Eric
Now
pulled up
I-
a picture of Elevator Action.
I think
I
we
don't know why
should
I thought
stream
of
playing
Elevator
it.
Action.
I think we need to play through Night Trap now.
We should do a playthrough of Night
Oh,
Trap. I'm
fuck
keen.
yeah.
I'm keen.
Yeah.
That would be
let's
so
do
fun.
That
Let's
sounds
do it.
great.
Minecraft actually
Oh,
has some
look at
fun
that
looking
picture.
screenshots here. Reminds me a bit
Mandalore,
of
you're welcome to join us if we stream Night
Yeah,
Trap.
if we do
Oh,
a
sure.
Night Trap stream, we'll get you in.
Wait,
Hell
I'm
yeah.
sorry. So there was a 25th anniversary of Night Trap?
Yeah.
I thought you guys were fucking joking.
No, this was
No.
real.
No,
Yeah.
it's
They
real.
somehow re-released Night
Convince
Trap on
Nintendo.
Switch. Someone
Okay.
screaming villains did it.
Yeah, wild.
Oh, that's Screamingville. Okay, I think I misunderstood. I thought it was gonna happen, and then it never did.
No,
Never
it's-
mind. This is wild.
Yeah, it somehow
Okay.
happened. I would love to hear how it happened because that's kind of crazy.
There's a story there, but as you said,
Yeah.
only in bars. It's gonna fade away. We have to talk to
Just
someone.
hurry.
It's about preservation. That's what they keep telling themselves.
Why do we have?
And as the final dono, unless I've missed one, apparently, Sovereign gives €20. Thank you so much, Sovereign. Such a great supporter of the show. And said, some years back, I bought a copy of Resident Evil 4 for a friend who wanted to get into horror games. 2 minutes in, he said, this controls like absolute fucking arse. He then dropped it after 2 hours, and he played Dead Space instead. The remake of it may have been justified.
No, I look, I totally get it, and I don't think anybody here is. I mean, there's a reason why our title is "Why Aren't We Sick of It?" We like remakes, but we also have to challenge it and say, like, this is what I was going to say earlier when I mentioned RE4. It would be nice to have that money go to unique and riskier things.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, at least, it's a bit of a shame when we just keep going back to the same brands and the same IPs, and we have games that have 6 sequels. Like, that's kind of crazy and a bit of a shame, artistically speaking. And this is an artistic medium, so we have to acknowledge that piece of it, while also we acknowledge, like, no, this was like a good modernization of a game that people otherwise wouldn't get to experience, and it was fun for them, and it opened them up to a series that they engage with in other ways. Like, it's not a black and white thing.
Or maybe we'll get Horizon Zero Dawn right the 3rd or 4th time we remake it. Remaster.
You're not a fan?
Didn't it just come out? They're already doing another one of it?
Are
Oh,
you
yeah.
doing a third? Yeah.
Oh my god.
No, they're re-releasing the first one.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
remastering the first one. It's wild.
But
yeah,
I thought they're doing so with the second too. No, that's for the PS5
Oh my god, like
Pro.
a combo,
There's the
like
new-
both of them.
I think were they doing that for the second one?
Maybe.
Oh, there's a Horizon Zero. Is there a remake? It doesn't matter. None of this matters.
None of it matters. Video games.
I remember a friend describing the first one to me. She was like, "It's a ginger Native American. You'd like it because they shoot dinosaur robots." And I was like, "Okay."
Damn, that is actually a legit way of describing.
And it's from the people who did Killzone.
Yeah. You're
Okay,
like,
oh,
what?
sick.
Well,
Speaking
how'd
of
they get
things that
there?
could be remastered, let's bring back
Yeah.
Killzone and Resistance.
Killzone, yeah, my god.
Okay.
Actually, I think they did
Yeah,
Resistance recently. They put it on I think you can
did
play
they?
on PlayStation now. Yeah, you could play the trilogy. It's
That
not
was
like a remaster.
that was Insomniac, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
No,
be
interesting
interesting
games
because that was a
in
fun
this
setting.
Yeah.
You'd really have to do something to Killzone and Resistance. Like Resistance, I think has an awesome setting going for it. Killzone has a cool setting. Don't get me wrong, but mechanically, something has to happen to make the combat stand out. I don't know what kind of. Maybe they do a different genre. It's like open world or something, but there need to be something there for a remake at least. A remaster would be cool too. I guess.
Open world.
Open world Killzone game. I don't know. It could be cool.
Hmm.
They have experience now in open world games, so maybe Guerrilla
That is
wants to do
true.
it.
Yeah, it was Spider-Man.
I don't know what it would be, like guerrilla fighting, but more honestly being a guerrilla instead of like Far Cry's version of a guerrilla, which is like too much access to resources. You don't get the vibe right. In my opinion, they don't get the guerrilla
That'd be cool,
vibe
like
right.
landing on toxic Helgen, like sneaking around, doing like kind of like a spy game. I guess what Shadowfall was trying to be a little bit, like a
Yeah.
little more like
Shadowfall.
resource pressured. That was the PS4 one where they all the shots are like 4 inches from people's faces to show off the graphics. So it was like a launch title. So it's like, look at his
Yeah, yeah.
pores for all the shots.
Yeah, that's what it was, right? It was
all
Killzone
those-
used to be that benchmark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all those launched like Killzone 2 was amazing looking when it came out. It still looks great now. It's like, wow, this is like, look at the power of the cell.
It really was. If you had to go back to Killzone, I guess what I'm just saying is like you'd have to do something different because otherwise it'll be perceived as like, oh, what they remade this and they're trying to be Halo or something. Like, I don't feel like you could do a linear single player FPS game with a cool art style anymore at a super high production. It wouldn't get greenlit unless there was something else to it, and it's too cool of an opportunity to add something to it to not take it up.
I mean,
Doom
as
might make it
said,
happen. There could be a way.
yeah. I mean, art-wise, these guys look super cool.
Yeah,
Jinro.
well, it's fucking Jinro, the Wolf's Brigade, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Um,
You take
which is
Jinro,
okay.
you dress them up a bit, make them space baddies. Well, just quote unquote space baddies. If you dig into Killzone lore, it gets a little bit strange what's going on despite
wait,
their
the
character
Hellgast
designs.
aren't that bad? Is that what you're saying?
Oh
it's
my
a very
God.
it's a very complicated history. But basically their planet's like really toxic and shit, and they were like sitting on it, and because their planet conditions were so bad, that's why they all have to wear like the gas masks all the time. So it's like if you like read up on it, it's a little weird how they frame things, but that could be part of the intention. It's been a while since I've gone through all of them, so
Years of War is also interesting in that regard because I think the planet on which it takes place, which I think is called Sera, Sera, that like humans colonized it and the locusts come to kill them, but you could make an argument that the locusts have a greater right to be there because they were there first. I don't know if there was a diplomatic failure though, because like the locusts probably should have reached out to humanity and said, "Hey, we live under the crust. Could we talk? I'm sorry." Like,
Well, should they though? Like, should like if we got invaded by an alien race and they like built infrastructure in our clouds and stuff, would we?
well, I think if sentience is established in both, which I think it is, because the locusts have organized militaries and they talk to each other, then you got to try, right? You have to try that first option before you go to the military solution.
Bug nuke 'em.
yeah.
Bug
just-
Don't want to
Yeah,
get too
just-
far into Gears spoilers, but their situation's a little complicated too. Where it's like, it's like were they native? Were they mutated like people? But
I didn't know any of that. Okay.
yeah, regardless, the cog, like the human
Isn't
government
that
was
how
pretty
Maria
fucking
died or
crazy.
something? They like put her in a little thing. Is that her name? Maria? Dom? Was it Dom? No, the other guy's.
Yeah, Maria.
wife. Maria.
was always
Dom's
Maria.
wife was Maria, I think, wasn't it?
Maria.
Yeah,
Dude, we
love
laugh.
that he's
We
called-
may laugh at some of the delivery of those lines, but that moment, I mean, I remember that.
it's really
moment.
it's fucked up.
It's
Yeah.
really sad. It
I
makes
thought
me
she
sad
was alive
thinking
and she
about
just
it.
kind of falls out.
Yeah, he sees her at, this is massive spoilers for anyone watching, but he finds his wife and he sees her as being okay. Then it kind of fades and he just screams like something like "I tried so hard," and Dom just said, or
got so
Marcus,
far.
all he can muster to say, being the beefy, probably insensitive man that he is, my interpretation is just Dom. It's okay. Is all he can muster. It's like it's devastating for everybody involved in the scene. I liked it.
The problem is
Oh,
Shadow the
man.
Hedgehog. There's just something about screaming Maria in video games.
Oh, is that what you're
it's
referencing?
really memorable, right? That's
No,
that's the thing
Dom
you need to
yells
get in your
Maria
game.
all the time, but
Okay.
Shadow the Hedgehog also had the Maria who gets shot. It's like his,
I did
it's like his
not know
downfall.
that- I did not know that Shadow had an emotional connection with a woman named Maria.
With a human woman, no doubt.
Human woman.
Yeah, all of these.
Whoa, are
hedge
you
pigs
saying
have
that
female
hedgehogs can't
connections.
have interspecies relationships?
Yes.
No, I'm not saying
Mikey,
she's not a
yes.
hedgehog.
Oh my god. We need
Is that a
justice for
problem?
Maria in 2025. Put her in your game. Don't kill her.
What are
it.
in your kingdom?
Remake
Hashtag
Shadow the
stop killing
Hedgehog.
Deep female characters.
That was probably Sega's only condition. They were like, "Yeah, you can let Shadow
Kill her.
have an interest, but she has to die because we can't have speculation because of this."
I would love a Shadow the Hedgehog remake with like the most aggravating leaks possible. Like they're saying Maria's not going to die in this one. They're
Oh
saying
my god! Like
Shadow's not
complete
getting a
rewrite.
gun. He's getting a flashlight. Just sprinkle bits
Alan
out.
Wake.
No, the gamers
My
are pissed,
God.
you're saying. The gamers get all pissed off. Like,
Oh
oh,
my God.
this isn't like the Shadow I know.
They're making
Oh.
Shadow's his motorcycle's gonna be electric now. It's not even running on gas.
Oh my God,
this
electric
sucks.
bike.
His electric motorcycle and flashlight with no gun and an alive Maria.
Pussy ass game.
This sucks.
I would
Done with
love
games, going to
Sonic I knew.
backgammon.
to see a marketing campaign run like that, just to see, just for science, to see how well the game sells because of it. Because that, like, people will talk about your game nonstop.
Oh,
yeah.
I see what you're. Wait, are you saying like a study that reinforces the principle of any press is good press? Of like it would actually.
It just
No, we
built
shouldn't do
on
that.
like trolling, just constant trolling.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a deliberate choice by the developers. Like fuck up. We're gonna give a flashlight.
I think Sonic's been writing
Yeah.
that for the last like 20 years.
It's like Metal Gear
What about
Solid
Sonic? Oh,
2.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like instead of Snake, you played as Raiden. Like what if instead of Shadow and the Shadow the Hedgehog remake, you play as Maria? After you get a 5-minute
Whoa.
motorcycle section that you play as Maria for the Shadow the Hedgehog game. He's
And,
like replace the
her
model
entire gameplay
trailers.
loop. It's not even the same gameplay. She's like filing her taxes. Like
Yeah,
that's the gameplay.
she's just doing boring shit. What was Maria's job in the game?
A woman.
Woman.
I don't remember there being much to Maria, honestly.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean by that. You mean
I'm
that.
not
There are
much
gonna
of a
be
invested-
some-
For the purposes of
invested
the game,
Sonic fan.
she was
There's
like,
going to be some
dehumanized
rabid
and just-
Sonic fans in the
Her
chat, just
job,
like,
woman.
actually,
She
Maria was
went-
not
in
just
the
a
US
female love
government
interest.
Peace
She
Corps.
went to help Shadow. She went to pull a lever, and then the cop from Cyberpunk shot her.
Jeez.
Mandalore's lost his touch. Did you hear what he said about Maria? I'm unfollowing immediately.
Yeah, I
Oh.
would love a Shadow the Hedgehog game where he plays Maria filing her taxes and basically like organizing her apartment.
Yeah.
You see news about Shadow on the news, and he's like, she's driving his electric bike around. He doesn't have a gun. That's why part of the news sticker would say he has no gun would be on there.
The
Oh my
only
God.
interaction you get, direct interaction with Shadow, is after filing her taxes, she checks her phone and she sees she missed a call from him, and she decides like that's too emotional. I can't get into that today, and she just puts the phone down and finishes
No.
filing.
Oh, that'd be a good mechanic. You check the phone like at the end of every tax filing session. It's like, oops, I missed another call from Shadow. That's like, oh, I missed 5 calls from Shadow, and he sent me 55 text messages. I need to tell him to stop calling me.
Oh my
It's a
God.
game about setting boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries with Shadow.
And
I'm
the
sorry,
GTA
Shadow, but I'm in the
5.
light.
Mud.
And light
I'm
and
in the
shadow
light.
light and shadow always have boundaries. We can't be together.
When
It's
I'm
about
with you,
saying
Shadow,
boundaries.
You
For-
bring out a dark side of me.
I'm
It's about
shadow. I'm
boundaries.
always in the dark, but a shadow needs light, or else it's just darkness.
Stop.
I really don't want this chat to end, by the way. I really don't.
no, this is great fun.
This is very
Make a new
fun.
show called Terrible Game Pitches, and I will regular on it.
This
just
is
fix
basically
these.
this.
Well, you
Challenge
see,
accepted.
go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
This like I've been saying this to the rest of the team. Like at the end of every episode of DevHeads, we do the whole improv game pitch thing, and they are always simultaneously the best and worst things ever.
Yeah, they never go the way you think.
No, and I want it to be its own show. Like, I want it to be, we sit down and we take a topic and we do that thing. Like,
that'd be a fun idea. Get the
fun.
animated versions of it. Have like your concept art for the cover.
Should I ask?
That'd be so good.
Should I ask my dumb philosophical question? By the way.
Oh yeah, from earlier that
sure.
we didn't get to. Yeah.
Go for it.
Alright.
Yeah.
Like if someone is on edibles listening right now, this is like your moment.
Turn off this.
Is Fortnite just a game that's constantly in a remake loop?
Ooh.
Like
What's it
as a
do?
live service game, I guess.
Yeah.
Ooh, actually, that's a point about live service games. That's like Ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What does that
Is an
metaphor
MMO
mean? I
still
don't
an
actually know what that
MMO?
means.
There was a ship, and basically, like, you take something breaks in the ship, like an old, like a.
Oh, that
seafaring
one. Yes.
Yeah, you take the board off, and then you replace. At what point, like, is it still the original ship if all the pieces are replaced?
Yeah. I think. Well,
Like,
I
they
guess
had-
we'd have to like go ahead.
They
Tina,
had they had building, right? Like building up like stuff was a part of it, and then they just pivoted and they're like, we're gonna do battle royale. So the building is kind of like out of place, but you're still playing a shooter, and kids just got really damn good at making a wall of wood or planks and stuff. And
Yeah, Mikey was actually Creel from like I think it was right when Fortnite was taking off. He's like, "Hey, you want to play Fortnite?" Like they added this. He's like, "It's like they had like this game mode where it's like a battle royale, but you can like build in it. Like it's kind of cool." I was like, "Oh, like maybe some other time." And it was like right when it's like, "What's Fortnite?" Where it's like they just added this mode into it, and that just completely exploded.
Yep. It was it was. I mean, look at the name, right? I'm pretty sure it was going to be called Fortnite because it sounded a little bit 7 Days to Die inspired, right? Were you like you?
Yeah, it was
wasn't
a
it
base
survival game? Were
defense.
you?
It was a base
Yeah,
defense game. I was in the. It was like the Friends and Family, alpha for it.
Oh wow!
It was pretty grim.
Grim.
It wasn't good. No, I just got bored.
Fortnite.
It was just like zombies slowly come to your base and you shoot them, and then the round's over. It is better. It's a better game for it. But at what point, like the Ship of Theseus, at what point does it stop being Fortnite and does it start being a commercial machine to sell you M&M skins? You know?
It's like, yeah, this zombie game is okay, but I wish Thanos was hitting the gritty.
Yeah, right. And twerking. Now I'm sold. Take
I
my
wish the
money.
Xenomorph and Travis Scott and all my favorite celebrities were here.
oh my god, Mando, you're so fucking funny. I need you to be on more of our podcasts.
That'd be fun. This is great.
When I told Tina, "Hey, I've got," I don't know if it was you specifically, Mandy. It might have been Shivoxy, but I basically said like, "Hey, there's a couple people I know that are YouTubers, but they also have like the gaming side, right?" I remember Tina expressing skepticism. She's like, "I don't know. I haven't always had good
Rightfully
experience
so.
with YouTubers."
Rightfully so.
But it was which is a fair thing to be concerned about. But I'm so glad that we could make this.
I want to set the tone though, or like the foundation. Okay, I come from the Call of Duty environment, and when I say Call of Duty environment, I mean
The allegations environment.
I have lived through like 12 to 15-year-old YouTubers saying the most heinous things about me personally and my friends, and now they're like 25 and they've erased their history and they're apologetic and moved on, but like they had a reputation, and when you collaborated with them, you just run the risk of being associated with
Right, I get
not
you.
so
I
great
get
things.
you.
Yeah. So that's where I was coming from.
Oh, I thought it was more of like the game dev expertise side of it. Like,
Oh,
so Tina, can you tell me why the developers were so lazy and didn't add more guns into the Call of Duty?
dude, I don't mind having those conversations. I don't even get offended by that. No, it's just more like, you just run the risk of someone saying, what's something that's bad? Something like would send you into an HR office and that they would fire you for.
Something bad enough that you can't give an example of right now.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
the Superman 64 reboot's perfectly fine. This is the
No.
country.
Oh
we're in
yeah,
now.
100%. Yeah, let's get that
That's
done.
lovely.
Yeah. No, this is great.
Speaking of the ship of Superman, Unnuclear gives $5 and says it stops being the same ship, when they delete the game I paid money for and replace it with Overwatch 2, I'm not sorry.
Oh, they did do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm.
What a
thinking-
fumble.
Oh,
Wait, what? Wait, say that again.
So what happened was Blizzard released Overwatch. It was unbelievably popular, made them,
Yes.
I think, over $1 billion. Like,
I love that game. Yes.
Fucked up. Yeah, me too. I loved it too. And then they were making a single player mode for it, and they were bringing out a bunch of maps and new heroes, and they decided to just release it as its own game.
Overwatch
and it was
2.
going to be a paid and it was going to be a paid experience.
Yes.
But it was effectively just DLC again. And it was originally going to be that people who owned Overwatch 2 could play Overwatch with people who owned Overwatch 1. They would just have more stuff. But then they realized, splitting your player base in that way, not really good. So
Especially
they decided
for multiplayer.
Exactly. They decided to axe Overwatch 1 and make Overwatch 2 free. So everyone could play it. And then add the single player mode and more content later on. They then axed the single player mode, fired everyone who was working on it, I believe, or reallocated them, and made the game, in a lot of players' opinions, worse because of it. So, yeah, I mean, I enjoy Overwatch 2. I don't play it as much as I did 1, but they did fumble on a lot of things there.
such a shame. Like that's my talk about Marathon. My problem is I've had people going like, "Oh, you should play through." Like, oh, like Bungie has so many interesting connecting threads through their games. Like, play through Destiny 1 or like 2. It's like, well, Destiny 1's gonna be tricky, and 2, it's like they've sunsetted all sorts of like there's levels and missions that are just gone now.
Entire DLCs, yeah.
Yeah, like you try to play it from the beginning, and it's like you get some elements of the story, but some is just gone. It's more like playing that's going on YouTube and seeing what was there before. But it's like I've kind of missed the bus on that, which is very sad.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, having that. There's a reason why a lot of live service shit works, and it's good. And it's not just like FOMO. Like, I mean, there's ways to do live service where you don't need to have that FOMO buoying it or like supporting it. Games I've worked on, like Insurgency Sandstorm, like we had all kinds of content and we just kept adding. It didn't make the menu experience so great, and I wish we thought ahead in some ways. But at the same time, like that's a small cost to pay. You don't need the FOMO aspect to make a live service game, I think, be good and support like growth of the game and the company. And there's some good ways to do it. I don't consider it a bad word, but yeah, there's definitely bad practices within it. And that's one of the ones I would argue. Like if you remove content, that sucks. Those levels were fun. Like lock them in a menu somewhere, even if it's inelegant and gross. As much as I don't like UI that's that I would describe as like bad or dense or cluttered, like I'd rather have that and still have the content, right? I feel like any player would make that choice.
Yeah, I was gonna say the argument against that would be file size, but that's kind of gone out the window long ago with a lot of games.
Yeah,
right.
Western game devs have passed
that's already long gone.
Precipice already.
That's true, and there's ways around that though, right? Like you just, okay, we're gonna make this DLC, and if you uncheck it, then you don't have to download it. Obviously, there's like a bunch of architecture, and there's a big lift there, but to me, it's worth the squeeze.
Right. Helldivers 2 is a good example of it working well. Because at Helldivers 2, like they have like events, quote unquote, but like the narrative is kept fairly light. Where it's like, oh, like if you missed the cutscene, you could look on YouTube and see it. Like the in-game events are more like, oh, we're trying to achieve this objective. Like you might have missed these battles, like that plant's going to come back and like the fight. It's not like some insanely cool event, like oh, you only get it every once in a while. Like the I was thinking of Dire Tide for Dota. Everyone like what Dire Tide was a lot of fun. People would cry for Dire Tide every year. They're like, we're doing a different one this year. It's like what a shame. But then I think when they brought in custom games, I think people could kind of make their own Dire Tide. But before then, it's like, well, if you missed it, you missed out. And you have to hope they bring it back.
What was Dire Tide? I have to look that up.
It was a Halloween event.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Or if they had it this year, actually, they might have. I haven't kept up with Dota in quite a long time.
Someone said Stalker 2 is 150 gigs in the chat. Oh my god.
God damn.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. And it's probably for a good reason, right? It's not good for us, but it's probably there was probably a real reason for that. It's crazy. I wonder when it's going to get completely unrealistic for players, because only then will it change, right?
Yeah, optimization is such a awesome topic, and like how you do that, and how you condense those files down to a manageable level it's
an
super
art.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I want to make a video on it, but it's always like, how do you frame it? That's always I think, like, how do you make a video about that interesting to my mum?
Actually, Tina,
What's
you
about
might
it?
know
Yeah.
you might know of this from the EA grapevine. Wasn't it tight? I remember that those conversations. I think they started with Titanfall 1, had like 60 gigs of uncompressed audio or something like that.
It was a lot.
Or it was like multiple languages, like they had the audio for every language in it or something. There was something like you could kind of cut out and organize better that I think they just shipped out that was taking up a lot of space.
It was, I believe, on the audio side, it was language and voice overpacks are usually downloaded based on your like Steam
Region
or
or-
console
yeah.
region and or language set. But I think it included all of them at once, so it was
that
half
was
of the
it.
game's data was voiceover.
Yeah,
I remember
think-
that.
Something along those
Oh,
lines.
go ahead, Tina. Yeah.
No, I think it's just an example of rushing the final build and then not being able to check for things like this.
Yeah.
I remember being shocked that Fear 1 was 16 gigs and came on
Whoa,
like
so
5
big,
CDs
Yeah.
or something. And I think a lot of it was the audio for there as well.
Yeah, that had that Creative Labs EAX support in there too. Get those beautiful tunnel reverbs.
That'd be
Yeah,
a fun remake. I don't know what you would do to it. It's still a good
Oh
game.
no,
but-
that would have been a
but
good
you
answer
could.
for remaster. Fear would be great. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's getting hard. I think you asked me a while back. You're playing Fear, but I was like, you're having some like FPS problem, and I was like, are you using like a Logitech mouse?
Yeah.
And you're like,
That's
oh yeah, I
correct.
was. 'Cause there was there's two famous performance bugs in Fear. One is related to having a certain brand of Logitech mouse past a year, like the frame rate just cripples unless you get some patch for it. The other was there's this level. I think when you first go into the sewers, and there's these rats that run in front of you, and like they just kind of go down the tunnel. And throughout the entire level as you're going through it, the AI for the rats is still spinning as they're like just navigating to the end of this tunnel and just like milling about. So people back in the day are getting these huge performance hits on it. It took years later for them to look back and go, "Oh yeah, it's because the rats were being called to throughout the entire time you're going through this level." So it's fun, full of fun little quirks like that.
Yeah, it could. It's not. I played it again recently, last year. It might have been when we talked about it. I forget. But after a couple fixes, it was fine for the most part. But there was still like a tiny HUD issue that I remember having to work toward. I had to set a frame rate limit, which would have been great. But I still played through it. I loved it. I was so happy. I actually played it overnight one night, and as soon as you get out in the end and daylight starts to break. Daylight
Actual
starts to
daylight's
broke
coming
in
in.
real life. I was so happy with that timing. It was beautiful, beautiful.
So
thing.
beautiful.
I fucking love that game. Fear 1 is like one of my all-time favorite games.
Same. It was probably right around when either Trepang 2 was coming out or we were reading about it. Like, oh wow, I should go back and play Fear because looks like they're doing like a Fear spiritual successor. Like you're even calling it Trepang 2. Like how cool. It's like it's the real Fear 2 after Fear 2 was whatever that was.
You know, we had him on, like the lead dev. Wilson
really?
Chung.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
He's a
a
great
cool guy. He
I'll have to
talked
watch
all
that
about
one.
it. Yeah. It's
And-
did you play Trepang 2 yet? Do you have a chance?
I haven't beat it yet, but I've played through it. Like I didn't go
Same.
and finish
I haven't beaten
it.
it yet.
Yeah.
The improv pitch we did with him was fucking wild.
That was good. Ass Blaster.
Ass blaster, yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
The
game
pitch
called
was
Ass Blaster.
I wanted
yeah.
I wanted to call it Ass Blaster. My vision was for the game to be called Ass Blaster. The premise was Tina presents like a picture or a GIF or whatever of something, and she's like, "Hey, do a pitch based on this." And her picture was kind of like a silhouette of a guy or something doing a dance move, swinging around like on his legs.
He was
and
doing
arms
a windmill.
with fire.
It
Yeah.
was a gif.
Windmill.
He was doing the windmill and like rocket
Fire
fuel was
coming out of his ass.
butt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Flames
And,
and smoke.
And so the premise was like it's kind of like Fear, like you're a weapon created by some sort of like defense company or whatever or evil corporation, and your ability was you ever read Scud, the Disposable Assassin, a graphic novel?
I'm
But
familiar
basically-
with it, but yeah.
The premise there is you're an assassin, you're a robot, you kill someone, then you explode, so you destroy all the evidence.
Yeah,
but
no,
Scud
nothing's
never
left.
exploded, so he becomes a character in the world, and he has to reconcile that. In this one, Ass Blaster was supposed to be a suicide bomb, like a secret agent that you put somewhere, infiltrate, and then he just blows up to kill the target. But instead of blowing up, the bomb malfunctioned, and fire just shot out of his ass. And he, as that person, needs to go like, what am I? I was a weapon of war, and what do I do with my life now? All I could do is shoot fire out my ass. So he seeks revenge on the people that created him with like Brazilian, what's it called? Capoeira fighting style.
Capoeira fighting, dances to blast people. And it was like a quap kind of movement on a 2D plane.
It was like plop, exactly.
Yeah, so
I could see this.
You were
like
doing capoeira dancing with like quap movement and then like ass blasting people. It was wild, and I cried during the
I still love the idea.
Yeah, I cried.
Well, you can make it work
laugh.
with like a grindhouse kind of like tone to it all.
Yeah.
Do like
That's the kind of thing.
do a tie-in promotion to like any menu item at Arby's, like the ass blaster. Any item doesn't matter. It's from Arby's. It's the ass blaster item. Burger, fries, any sandwich, whatever.
Beef-based item from Arby's.
Ass blast guaranteed.
My God. Okay, so we have one more donor that's come in, which we'll go through, and then we'll sadly have to wrap up. This has been the longest podcast we've ever done.
Oh no,
Mando, thank you so much for helping us with this.
Is Tina broken?
Is Tina broken? Can I read this dono?
Just go ahead.
Yeah, my entire Slack is screaming, why are you talking about ass blasting? Why are you not?
Yeah,
why
what are you
working
doing?
Right? You should be working right now. You're talking about Arby's.
What's happening?
Get back in the dungeon.
Yeah, I should be finishing off the latest design delve, and yeah, I'm here. Daniel Pearson gives 50 SEK.
It's not real. Let's move on. It doesn't matter. Is that Swedish currency? No, they use krones. That could be it.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up.
Swedish krona.
No, you're right. It's krone.
Oh, so it's Swedish E for money krona.
Yeah.
Krona.
50 of them.
There you go.
Swedish gold, basically.
Yeah, that Swede gold gives 50 Swede gold and says, loved the demo but hated the game. Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain, which kind of rhymes. I kind of like that.
Nice.
Ground Zero
Ground
being
Zeroes.
the demo, right? Effectively.
I did put like 30 hours in Ground Zeroes, though. I played the shit out of that thing.
I liked them both. I feel like if you liked Ground Zeroes, you would probably like MGS5 proper, Phantom Pain.
The
So I'm
problem is
surprised
that no, I get that because it was full priced, which goes against it. Like that was crazy to make it like $40 or whatever. But it's also like the vibe of it, like hitting this big open map, where it's like if the Phantom Pain had Ground Zero's map like level design, where it's you go into like this one area, but you can approach it in all these different ways. Like, look, there's side objectives. Like, you got a lot of mileage out of Camp Omega. Like, the atmosphere, like the rain. So, I remember Kojima teasing when the game was coming out, like, you will return to Camp Omega. Like, it'll be back. But, of course, like, many other things didn't make it to the final.
That's a fair point. Level design's important. Next time, we'll talk about the Halo versus Halo Infinite open level design.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That'd be so good.
Silent Cartographer is going to be a doozy.
Oh, yes. My
Lovely.
God. Right. Okay. Well, this saddens me greatly, but we'll have to wrap up. Unfortunately,
I think we just need to have Mandalore on again sometime.
Oh, 100%.
I'll try to now.
Find a topic, and we'll get Mandy back on because
The Night Trap's a great
blast.
idea. The Night Trap's a great idea too.
That'd be fun. I'm still advocating if you want Night Trap to work today, just put a FNAF skin on it. Those kids will
100%.
love watching that funny bear dance around the house.
Oh yeah. It'll just be bears going around for sure. Mandy, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to shout out or let the people know that you're working on?
I got shout out to Arby's in the Ass Blaster promo. Don't order anything from there unless you want to experience that pitch yourself in your home or in your office.
I'm here in the US now. Are you saying avoid Arby's?
No, go to Arby's. Become an American and eat some bad fast food that makes you sick.
Just get whatever item they're promoting that has the most meat in it and go, wow, I didn't know meat could make me feel this way, or it could feel this way in my hands. Then you'll understand. Oh wow, look at that! Look at that disgusting sandwich she's put up on that.
For those of you who can't see right now because you're listening, Eric has put up a really delicious looking picture of an Arby's roast beef sandwich.
Yeah, Jamie, can you pull up some more sandwiches in the?
Oh, it's absolutely wild. That's so good.
Like
We'll make
I
our
remember,
next thing you eating an Arby's sandwich.
Vince Zampella used to always praise Arby's, and I've never tried it, and I probably never will.
What is that?
Exclusive Vince
Are those-
Zampella likes Arby's.
Are
What's
those
his
onion
picture?
rings and mac and cheese in the same burger?
No, they look like
that's
curly
the Arby's.
That's
fries.
heinous.
They were
That
like
looks like a
curly
Korean menu
fries
item.
and
That's
onion
insane.
rings with a tower of meat.
We're
Yeah, they're
just
curly
gonna-
fries, right? And cheese.
We're in a mukbang through night.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, look at that and say it doesn't
Night
scream
Watch.
Ass Blaster. Like, that's it.
I
That's
want to do a
that's the
night trap
tie-in.
mukbang. Tina, you're heinous. What are you? Night trap mukbang sounds like the worst thing on the internet.
Oh. I guess.
I'm sold. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's combine
shout out to
mukbang
Hooded
and
Horse.
streaming.
It's fun playing
Amazing.
games and helping run a company.
Hell
It's
yeah.
nice though. Everyone in the C-suite like knowing games is so nice. It's not
Yeah.
like
Yeah, right.
talking
And
to
important,
develop.
dude. And
Oh
important.
my god! Like I was hearing Tina's story about like the Apex, like trying to market it, where like they don't understand it. They want to be out of games. Where it's just like, oh, like, what is this? Like, can you make it like a Fortnite? I heard of that Elden Ring. Can you do some of that in that game? Where it's like having everyone else in the council being like, oh, that game like that looks derivative, like Command and Conquer
Yeah.
Generals, like where everyone knows their stuff and is at that level is just so it's
It
so
is, it's
nice.
good.
Everyone cares about their developers, so they're a great
And,
bunch.
like from our perspective, also shout out to Hooded Horse, not just because Mandy, being a director, like we've spoken extensively with their team, and not only are they a pleasure to talk to, also doing amazing things as a publisher, and should be commended. And hey, if you're a publisher, copy what these guys are doing in terms of how they treat their developers, because it is commendable to fuck. Amazing. I love it.
The industry doesn't have to be a nightmare. We could treat people
yeah, if
like
we all
human
work
beings.
to not have it be a nightmare, it could be
You
pretty
can
good.
make games and see your children sometimes.
Sometimes.
We should make that happen more.
100%. Tina, Mikey, do you have anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to promo?
Nothing on my end. Thank you so much, Mandy, for coming on. This was a lot of fun. We'll do it again sometime.
A
Yeah,
lot
of
of
course.
fun. Thank you.
All right, and I guess for me, keep checking out DevHeads. We got loads of cool guests coming on. We've got Mark Brown from Game Makers Toolkits coming on in the following weeks, which is going to be really cool. If you're new here, I have a game dev centric show called Design Delve with me, my cartoon dog Ludo. So check that out if you haven't. And yeah, as a final thing, Mandy, thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure. It's been one of the most fun episodes for me that we've ever done, and we hope to have you on in the future.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, this was a lot of fun too, especially since this is like the most I don't want to say like high profile podcast, but I was like, oh, the Mikey's on it. It won't be too stale. We'll have fun here. So
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, Mikey's there. It's definitely going to be
beyond
fun.
my hopes and dreams for the discussion. There was some.
We're very buttoned up
100%.
here.
As blast.
Did you see how readily I said ass blast?
Yeah, you like
Yeah, it
didn't
came
hesitate at all. Like you were just
No,
looking right into the camera.
Yeah.
We need to make
It's
this
what's
happen
cool here.
sometime.
We educate. We like to think that we're trying to educate. It's part of the thesis of DevHeads, but it's also about making it casual and accessible and just being ourselves. And we all curse and swear and speak in this way. So it's genuine, all of
100%.
it. So
Yeah.
All right. So it saddens me to say this, but thank you so much, everyone who came to watch, and we will see you in the next episode. Goodbye, guys.
bye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Full.